By
Oh,
Joe.
looks like we're actually here. Yeah, it's about time. I just had to change a few things to get us to come here. That's all. But yeah, we're live. It's only it's only going on an hour late. Maybe we'll have to cut a few things short, but um,
Had some streaming problems, couldn't get it up.
couldn't quite get it up today. I was having some issues.
I swear this never happens.
It's not something that normally happens. It's just it is what it is. Now why isn't it? Come on. Okay, this one.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
I refuse to go along with this, and I'm seeing through all of your lies, Barack Obama, you wicked, wicked devil!
Welcome back to another night of Stick with Koolfrogg. We're gonna do 2 starts tonight because we're cool like that.
Oh, hey, here, share this.
So I can go
And
back and
it's
edit
so
that
good
later
we
if
had
I
to do
want.
it twice.
Yeah, legit.
Maybe we should do it
Right.
3 times.
Right. So this is
Oh.
is what
Time is the charm.
this is what's happened to us, all right?
Perhaps you did not hear what I just said. I am a century-old Egyptian pharaoh. I was dead, but now I have come back to life.
Yeah, no, I heard that. I got that. Welcome back.
Welcome back. I love when his parents come and they're like, "Oh, the Jews, we love the Jews."
So
Oh God.
we're picking on shit for
Anyway.
whatever reason his logo coming upside down tonight. And you know,
It's called
it is what it
backwards.
is. So yeah, he's
Mirrored.
well, it's
Comrade Shirts is here.
it knows
You have
to
you have
fly
uncovered the real
in
me.
anger or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking
His
about.
true
What?
name Dimitri.
Why did they hit that?
Dimitri.
Kalishnikov, brother.
So I just want a particular. It's not a brave scream. It's not what it is. In any
My
point.
uncle Vladimir is not too happy with your
Don't
country.
want to share all of it.
Have you come to judge us in our ways before the big boom?
Okay,
Different from Big Bang.
So
Oh no, you see, there's
to
delineation.
start off with,
Da,
you
yes.
see this
da.
nice big huge graph that's on front of you. This is a median
Da,
bias
da.
chart. Do you know
Oh,
what this?
shit.
You guys ever see one of these? Paid attention.
Looks
to one
like
of these?
a met what do you what
Is
is
this
it?
one of them left to right flow chart?
It is the media bias chart. So the center is neutral. So the Associated Press top neutral. Their original fact reporting and neutrality is pretty much dead center up top. So then it moves left to right from most extreme left to most extreme right. And you see there's several of them in there. And the reason that I bring this up or whatever is because the articles that we're going to actually be going through. There's one of them that is by this Slate, which you can see is considered hyper left.
Looks
Complex.
like one of those mech droids from game I like to play.
See, I don't agree with this thing at all. Why is it saying that?
And now
Why is it
we're
saying that
not here
CNN
to
is just
agree
barely
with it or
skewing
not.
left?
This is just so we can
And
kind
then
of
InfoWars is like the
where
most
they
extreme
say
right
they
over
are
here.
and where they actually are. Because I mean,
It
you see
is psychotic.
Infowars and you see Breitbart right down in the bottom corner, in that right, so I mean,
Why the hell
it's
don't they have stuff like the
nonsense
Daily
damaging to
Stormer on
public
here? Like that is
discourse,
very
right back
far
to
right.
so
See, like, look how
that-
far down they have it.
all the way back to the New York Post is discredited, on the right. So Daily Mail, Daily Wire, Fox News is on the line. You see OAN's a little bit before or whatever, right?
How the hell is OAN even before that? Like, how the hell is
Well,
that?
that's kind of what I was thinking. So you kind of
Like,
move up
what?
through here, whatever. But anyway, so one of the articles that we're viewing is this one is from Slate, and you can see how it says it's it's pretty far left.
I'd
So
also like to point out, look how far down Emirates Jones's website and channel thing is down there. It's literally touching all four corners. And look at the left side. They literally can't make it touch all four corners because there's nothing that's that far left, right? Because everybody else is just horribly far to one side, but the left is just not quite there.
so we got one that comes in from
Totally.
the Daily
Fox
Caller.
News.
They just want to lock us all up in gulag, but whatever.
So you can see we're going to move all the way across the board, from
Bloomberg's
one
on the right.
to the other, and there's one that we might
Wait,
hit
really?
on.
What the hell?
We're getting a little late. I'm running into the issues with the thing not wanting to actually. So then there's a special one that I didn't actually put in the clip that I decided I wanted to try getting it in because I was assuming we were going to get through this fairly quick. There's one that comes in from the commentary. Now, the one in the commentary, whatever, you can see it doesn't actually show a mark in there.
Hey, Koolfrogg, you drink all the vodka. You have all four screen up.
Oh. Well,
It's all right, my friend. Vodka is good.
Comrade, vodka really mean water I love, so please, love it tender.
So, so the one that I didn't want to show you that you just seen a little preview of.
A little sneaky peeky.
You got a little sneaky
Beyond
You
the
naughty,
neck.
naughty audience.
Beyond the
it's
neck.
not a big deal, for the most part. Just nothing that, nothing that they're seeing that, it's going to, whatever. Everything's all cool. I'm good. You guys may have, you see that there's one that come in from the commentary. Well, the one that come in from the commentary, when you actually look at where it's actually placed, and the only reason we're doing this is so that everybody understands that we're not just nitpicking on, article from this side or from that side. And we're like, oh, they always read the same articles. They always read the same thing from the same place. Well, that's not true. We read from both sides. This one that's from the commentary, you see it's actually thrown its media bias. It's throwing it all the way up to the, it's basing it as right. It's asking if I want to agree with it or disagree with it, so I can actually put my own vote in on if I feel if it's left or it's right. We won't actually, agree with that quite yet because we haven't really read through the whole thing. I kind of did. And you can see it says it's from a monthly American magazine on religion, Judaism, and politics, as well as social and cultural issues since 1945. They've been around. So, this article is a fairly interesting article if we actually get to it. But it was the whole reason that we brought up the media bias chart was to actually show people that, we're kind of all over the board with the articles. We don't just go and nitpick with one that's easy to. Where's my mouse? Come on now. You just boom right through the whole thing. That's the name of the game. That's what we do. I do have a couple other things that are, two main ones. Who you guys want to be tired with first? Psaki, get it done and over with.
Or what's the other option?
Yeah, what is our alternative?
Well, we ended on a little bit of a higher note with Biden's pipes of mass destruction.
Okay, so let's do Psaki first.
Sure, I have a solution to your problem, maybe.
Oh, what's this?
Well, comrade, you must go into settings, and by pressing S, and then you go down to mirror camera. Maybe this will help you.
Oh, hey, I'm back to being American again. What do you know? That's pretty cool.
Well, you can go
There's
to
just
Comrade Church
some
anytime you
stranger
need to.
just come in here. Like she kind of infiltrated her channel. I don't know who it was. Let me see if I can't bring him back in. Oh, yep, there it's. Oh, it's the actual shirts. What's up, buddy?
The hell?
Did I just? Oh, welcome back, Comrade Shirts.
My uncle very upset. Very upset.
Most displeased you tried to kick me
Vladimir
out of show.
very not.
Again, I brought up the
50
media bias
Russian
chart so
bucks
you can
for
see
you.
the difference in the sides of spectrums that we're looking at. We're not looking at just one side of the spectrum.
Yes, like my sides of
Here,
my
this is from
spectrums.
Slate. This is from Slate. You know, it's pretty hypertensive left. You know, so there might be some objective language in there. So this is Jen Psaki, whose job is to reassure the press that the public that the main character in the White House has everything under control, has become a bit of a main character herself. She's been showing up on podcasts and answering how I get it done questions in the cut amid the fallout of her December 6th comment dismissing the idea of mailing Americans free rapid tests. It's certainly a contrast to the early post-Trump heroism ascribed to her by fans who circulated clips of her fending off hostile questioners and hashtags like hashtag Psaki bomb, celebrating how she destroyed a reporter from Fox News. Either way you look at it, Psaki has played a starring role in the administration, exceeding even the vice presidents, even if it's clear this hasn't exactly been by design. It's less clear whether there anything Psaki can do about it. It doesn't sound like she's in a very good spot right now. She actually, reading this article. So it's because it is from the left. It's their side. They should be pretty in line with what this is actually saying. If you think about it, it's no secret that the President Joe Biden sought to reestablish a White House characterized by distinctively un-Trumpian lack of drama, or that he has succeeded so completely on this front that his own attempts at messaging go mostly unheard. His hopes for his press secretary seem to have been similar. The spokesperson is not. This shouldn't be the story because of you are. It's usually for bad reasons, as we've seen. One of Obama's press secretaries of Psaki's appointment had said this. Jay Carney. She definitely represents a return to an era that was bipartisan, where the spokesperson was somebody who could credibly speak on behalf of the president, the White House and the administration, and the country. So, to me, it sounded like she's, they're saying that she's not really, living up to the hype that she was supposedly supposed to be.
What would you expect from this woman, honestly?
Well, I know your feeling on it, so in the way in the way she conducts herself, Psaki fits that profile. But it's not obvious that such a return is possible.
She fits the profile of a complete bitch.
Right. Became this story early and often during the Donald Trump's presidency. Sean Spicer never ever tried to establish himself as a plausibly neutral presence. His very first press briefing, a Jared made against the press for how he's covering the crowd since Trump's inauguration. Usually I look upwards when I see words like that. I didn't look that one up today, apparently. It must have slipped my mind. Oh well. But frighteningly watchable distortions. Sarah Huckabee Sanders began her tenure by presenting herself as the first mother to serve as the White House press secretary, crediting Trump for that innovation, and despite her very real command of the room and comparatively positive relationship with the press corps, set a tone of peculiar but dodged civility to the president. She even started one press briefing by reading aloud a letter from a child praising Trump. Those in Kayleigh McEnany's briefings were empathetically performances. There were overtly theatrical to them, and to the various ways they reflected their employer. I expect Stephanie Grisham here, who has a peculiar distinction of conducting no briefings whatsoever during her stint as press secretary. So, I mean, apparently there's people that are, willing to not even do the press briefings or whatever. So it's like, no, we're just not going to do it. I mean, if you watch when we get through today's, you'll understand why I'm like, oh, really? So are we now limiting people and who can actually ask questions again? Once the press room became a stage, it became hard to think of it otherwise. The Trump era, coupled with how easy partisan social, you notice the left, what they're all about, that right
Blame
there.
Trump.
That's all they care about. They don't care about anything else but to pick and poke jabs at Trump administration, because that's what they know how to do. They don't know how to do anything else but do that. I mean, it's almost ridiculous when it comes down to the finger pointing. I don't even want to finish reading this because it's upset me. And again, this is the slate. This is the left. This is what the left wants you to actually hear. This is what they're saying is correct correct information, and this is what they want you to understand. And that's why I'm going to kind of jump.
Psaki bomb.
Right, I'm going to jump
down in here.
There's a couple of interesting. So, exhausted at the Trumpian invective, it's just, come on. They wanted more fully throated rejection in the recent past. This created an environment where Psaki's occasional sarcasm, she does have a dry wit and uses it well.
Dry wit?
Psaki has dry wit and she uses it well. Where?
I mean, she's very dry, but
She's got a dry twat and uses it poorly.
she has a dry sense of personality. Just period.
You're sitting there blowing the dust out before you do anything.
Oh my! Oh. Oh my!
It's, I mean, just that sentence alone is just like, yeah, right, okay. So then she said recently, while highlighting an irony of Republican politicians complaining about not getting enough room from the infrastructure bill, they voted it, but Psaki destroys Ted Cruz.
It's like in all caps. It's like, please take us seriously. We're totally not some raving, like, freaking middle school girl just like screaming on Twitter, like, or Facebook, like, I got you. Freaking mean girls over here.
Headphone guys.
So something just got added. Because we're not even going to finish reading this, because that's how ridiculously angry it makes me to even think of reading something that, again, from the left. It's so hard to read. They sit there and they...
Look at this. Look at this middle paragraph here. Psaki is just hailed. Justly hailed. She says justly hailed by many, including Chris freaking Wallace as one of
Like
the
we
best
care.
White House press secretaries in recent memory. Who the hell thinks that this complete bitch is the best White House press secretary we've ever had? You ask her anything remotely that she doesn't like, and she's sitting there thinking about, like, God, like, how do I like kill him in his sleep, you know? Like, I say, like, oh, you know, like that's her. Like, she's just a freaking, like, bitch. Oh, wait,
It said something
no.
about.
Go back
It
to the
said something
picture.
about. We will. We'll go back to it. I promise.
Excuse me.
We'll go back to it. But we're gonna stop that for
And she
a
has
second.
such an attitude, and there's such arrogance, and it's just like, you know, and you think like, oh, look at me, I'm so cool, or it's like she's
This is
so
where they
great.
say
Oh my
that
God.
she destroys.
Following up on the
Choose.
Supreme Court decision, a number of Republicans,
God,
as you
look at the
know, and as
frickin'-
you've been asked about, have spoken out about the president's pledge to pick a black woman for the high court. How do you respond specifically
High
to
court.
Ted Cruz, who overnight
Like
called
it's
it
a high
offensive
priestess.
to the
Didn't we
president
all
that
listen to
women
this one?
make that pledge?
Well, here's what I would say first. Just over a year ago, the previous president also promised to select a woman for
You
the
guys don't
Supreme
remember
Court.
watching this.
Not
with me.
only were there no complaints about choosing a nominee from a specific demographic
Oh,
from the
dress
same
is
corners,
hideous.
but there was widespread praise of now
That's what you
Justice
said last
Barrett on
time.
those grounds, with Republican lawmakers widely
Did I?
citing that they thought that this was positive for women in America. Senator Cruz himself, he had no objection to Donald Trump promising he'd nominate a woman in 2020. Repeat, no objection at all. In fact, he praised her on these grounds. The nominee. During her confirmation hearing, Senator Cruz said, quote, "I think you're an amazing role model for little girls. What advice would you give little girls?" When President Reagan honored his campaign pledge to place the
So
first woman on the
that's
court, he said it symbolized
saying
the
that
unique
we
American
want all women on the
opportunity.
court or
There is
something. Like, what the
no
hell?
outcry around that. The president's view is that after
Didn't we all
230
watch this
years of the
together?
Supreme Court being in existence,
I don't
the
think
fact
so.
that not a single black
It all
woman has
blends
served on
together
the
for her.
Supreme Court is a failure in the process.
No, I'm pretty sure we watched this one within the last week. We watched this particular. We kind of skipped through it a little bit. We watched this particular statement. We watched this statement.
Not a failure or a lack of qualified black women to
Because
serve
I know
as
I
Supreme
make you
Court
guys watch
justices.
Psaki.
And broadly speaking, we just heard from the president on how he is viewing this pick. He says
Mm-hmm.
he's taking the advising
Even the
consent
girl
very
with the mask on looks
seriously,
better than John Psaki.
of the Senate. If he thought, and I know you've been getting questions around this, but just to kind of put fine point on it, if he thought that a nominee could get more Republicans,
Well, her husband's a
how
ham,
would
so,
that
you know.
weigh on his decision making?
I talked with him about this exact question this morning because I know a
Then
lot of you
again,
are asking
how do we
about
know
it.
it's her husband?
And what he reiterated to me is that his focus is on picking
Could
the
be her
person who
brother.
is eminently qualified, who is ready to serve and prepared to serve in a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court, not in navigating the legislative process.
Just
I don't think Shirts was with us. I think this is me and Jimmy YouTube, and we did if I'm not mistaken, we did a show on. I'll have to look up the show, and I'll link the show down below so that you guys can. I'm telling you,
yesterday said the bomb threats
we did one on.
disturbing. Can you update us on what, if any, more information the White House, the president has about these potential threats? And is there a concern that it is in fact linked?
I can't complete the sentence right now.
Well, we don't have an assessment at this point. We are continuing to evaluate. Our Homeland Security advisor here in the White House, Liz Sherwood-Randall, is providing regular updates to senior staff, to the president as well, and he certainly is aware of the latest instance of bomb threats, not just yesterday, but also those this morning. Let me just reiterate that we condemn these disturbing threats, and our thoughts are with the students, faculty, and staff of these storied institutions. We have been long supporters and have made historic investments in HBCUs and deeply value the significant role they continue to play in advancing opportunity for Black students across America. But right now,
Are you
we
going to
don't
give
have
us your thoughts and
any
prayers for
assessment
having
or
us
new
look at your disturbing
assessment,
face all the
right
time,
now.
Jen Psaki?
Chance that the president or
Yeah,
any
right.
discussions about the president visiting one of these
I mean,
HBCUs?
I know it's kind of my
Excuse me,
fault. I'm the one
Chucky.
that keeps on turning it back on and
He has certainly
making you
visited HBCUs
listen
in
to
the
this
past, Kristen. Obviously, right now our
horrendous,
focus is on ensuring we are
Chucky.
working in close
hideous.
coordination with our law
Mark
enforcement
Zuckerberg and
authorities
drag.
and ensuring that the leaders of these institutions and the students know that we are watching closely and that we are standing with them as they face these threats. But I don't have any trip to predict at this point in time.
Good for you. You see where they picked up theirs. We'll close that. And
So go back to that article we were looking at,
yeah,
right?
we're
At the
gonna
top
go
of the
back
page
to it. But
with that freaking picture of hers.
there was the tab that was inside there, whatever that I had to play. That was the one that was her going against the Ted Cruz or whatever, and bringing up previous administrations. Just because that's the easy way. That's the easy way to get a press conference is to actually just bring up. So then, next paragraph was pretty much there.
Are you going to go through the rest of it?
Yeah, we can kind of read a little bit through it. There's a couple decent quotes that are in there. Even Psaki's Twitter gaffes and comparatively mild. In January 16, a harmless tweet of hers which said, "Growing up in the Northeast, I will never understand the closing of stores and restaurants when there is barely an inch of snow on the ground yet." Get enormous pushback that reflects, among other things, the extent in which her popularity may roughly correspond to Biden's approval rating. It's a notable tweet for being unusually personal. Psaki presents as a Cincinnati Bengals fan, but is otherwise remarkably professional in her soft presentation, by which I mean impersonal, aggressively, idiosyncratic.
Oh my God. Like, do you remember Sarah Huckabee Sanders when she was the press secretary? And they gave her all kinds of shit. She had kids that
Yeah, they
she took
did.
to DC and her husband too. And like, they all were there and their family was there. And she made freaking the whole press corps like pecan pie and like other different things for like Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff and whatever. And like, they just gave her all kinds of shit all the time. It's like, I mean, can you get more personal than like making someone something to eat? And say, like, after they treat you like a sack of potatoes and treat you like dirt trampled under
This
feet,
article
you
is
make them
upset.
food anyway. Like, oh, but that's not personable at all. That's not a very decent
Just
human being.
really hate how they have to dig and point fingers at everybody. So then a canvas that blank means that any flash of individualism stands out, for better or for worse. Any shade, any sarcasm, any hint of personality leads either to accolades or annihilating political opponents, for attacks are the same. It's an
Oh my God.
conundrum. By the extent that Biden and Psaki comparatively stayed management for the national stage counters Steve Bannon's flood the zone with shit media strategy. They have suffered. Stands out more than where it isn't surrounded by sewage.
Wow.
They don't even, right. That's what I'm saying. They can't even just get a.
This is someone who's
point out.
really mentally mature right here, by the way.
This right here is the writer going to the ridiculous point of actually needing to point fingers at something more.
You
than
talking
what
about
the article
farts
was
and
about.
sewage and like
About as mature as Shrek.
yeah, legit. That's completely legit right there.
This person right here.
Lily Lufaboro. Lufaboro? Who the hell has the name of Lufaboro? What the hell kind of name is Lufaboro? What the? I've never.
Let's-
Who the hell's
let's
ever heard of it?
look her up real
Loofboro.
quick and let's see who this
What?
person really is that works at Slate. LilyLoofboro.com. I've also written for the newspapers, working in books and creative nonfiction. I've represented
Books of
you did
nonfiction.
nothing.
This
The
whole thing is a work
Guardian.
of fiction.
She's got some articles on the Guardian.
Oh God.
The Week. Looks like she's got her thing up on LinkedIn, but she's got her own .com. Oh, how dare I! Let's bring this up real fast here. Let's see. We can make this segment a little bit more interesting than we actually thought it was going to be. Let's stop sharing that screen for a second. Sure, I left you down below, man. How you feeling about that?
You've been demoted.
I'm very depressed.
So here's Lily Loofboro.
It's Captain Crunch now.
I'm a staff writer at Slate. Before that, The Week. In an essay of mine, I was in Best American Essay 2019. I won the Virginia Quarterly Review Stage D Blackford Prize for creative nonfiction for The Male Glance in 2018 and for Bullshipping in 2015. I've also written the New Yorker Review for Books, New York Times Magazine, The Guardian, The New Republic, Talking Points, Memo, PMLA, Salon, Slate,
God, Salon.
Al
Jazeera.
Post 45, the Los Angeles Review of Books, the New York Magazine, The Cut, Oyster Books, Boston Review, the Virginia Quarterly Review, the New Inquiry, Avidly, BuzzFeed, Hairpin, Refinery 29, Racked, and Press Play. I've worked in a book and creative nonfiction. I'm represented by Jin Ho of the Wiley Agency.
That's totally not Chinese.
LilyLoof at Gmail. Tell her how well do you think if she does at her job. I mean, we just read the article somewhat from her. You can see she's got all kinds of articles in there, including something in Spanish, radio appearances that she's made.
She has something in Mandarin.
TV writing. She was part of the Marvelous Miss Maisel.
Or she at least speak that to her agent.
Curb Your Enthusiasm, The Deuce, High Maintenance, Sherlock. She's been she's done her part in a lot of different things, which is good for her. But no wonder everything's so broken.
Yes, that's exactly right. She's done her part to destroy society. Her little mentally retarded part, but mentally.
And she's been around. She's done a lot.
Special part.
So I mean,
very special.
Good for her. Yay! You did a good job.
Yeah.
Yay! Now go off with yourself.
Get the hell off the screen. What the hell you doing?
We don't need you on the screen no more.
But pull back up that flary red-haired bitch. Pull it.
Oh, we got more to go with this lady.
Like, pull that picture back up though. Like, I want to comment on this.
You want to pull? You really want this picture that Slate decided to use?
Yes, that one.
Oh my!
This is very exemplary of the point that I just like to make.
Where's Jimmy? What's your attitude towards all this, bud?
I'm just not a fan of Jen Psaki or just any position that she's with, bro. She's just a bag of lies.
Look at this.
She can't get herself in any position for Jimmy.
Oh my!
And she would.
Oh.
So, I mean,
But like, look at the way
we all have
look
our
at the way
feelings
this
for
woman
this.
dresses. Okay,
She
look at the way she dresses.
technically is a woman, yes.
Or is she?
Well, she's had a couple kids, So I went through this earlier with Jimmy.
So they say.
She has a couple kids.
I mean, she literally
She may have, followed the CDC guidelines with them or whatever, but she currently has kids.
Like look at the way that she dresses. She looks like a freaking ragdoll.
Oh, we can get into
old-fashioned.
We got plenty to go.
I mean, look at this. Okay. Like, I'm gonna share this picture here, and tell me that this does not look like Jen Psaki right here.
It doesn't look like Jen Psaki.
I mean, look at this. It's a perfect match. I'm like, holy freak! Like, can you not? And then, do I go back? Where did I go with this? Okay, here we go. See, look. Like, it's right there, right? And then there's, Chucky, right? That's what most people refer to.
Okay,
right?
so what brought me to
Chucky.
Jen Psaki today was actually this clip that I picked up from Forbes. I was like,
But like, she literally looks like a ragdoll.
Yes, these guys together are funny.
And then the way she dresses makes her look that way even more.
Okay.
It's insane. You're not helping.
Share the time remaining.
The gentleman has 5 minutes remaining.
5 minutes. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And just,
Jimmy, you
like to
might want to pay
recognize my
attention.
great friend from Texas, Mr. Chip Roy. He's been on the front lines of this issue. And when people say, I just want to add this, Chip, I don't want to take from your time, but people often say to me, well, what would you cut? What would you cut? Well, you know what I would cut from the state and foreign ops budget? Money going to the UN to pay for people to come to our country and cross our border illegally. How about cutting that? Sir.
That'd be a little excellent.
Well, I would agree with my friend from Pennsylvania. I've been this time on the floor, and I appreciate my colleagues from coming down. The state of Texas on the front lines, under siege. The communities that I represent dealing with the scourge of open borders, the dangers that are provided by cartels and the illegal elements that come across the border on a daily basis, and this body does nothing about it. This week, we're going to entertain legislation that will do nothing to combat China, nothing to stop China from continuing to run rampant around this world, violating human rights, undermining our national security, and we're going to put together a nonsense bill that's a Green New Deal agenda, pacify and appease China bill, when we should be saying what the woman from Texas said to the coach of the Miracle on Ice hockey team, beat those commie bastards. That's what we ought to be saying. That's what we ought to be doing. But no, here we sit, doing nothing. But you know what we are doing is we're sleeping while our border's wide open. But worse than that, the Biden administration and Secretary Mayorkas are taking purposeful steps to open our border, disregard the law, and to fail to faithfully execute the laws of the United States. And our country's in danger. And Americans are dying. Americans are dying specifically because of the actions of the Secretary of Homeland Security. That's what's actually occurring. We have fence rusting in fields in Texas. We have contracts that aren't being paid. In fact, we're paying people not to work, not to build the fences. We're not using migrant protection protocols. We're not using Title 42. We're releasing people into the United States against federal law, not doing anything to actually secure the border, and therefore the Secretary of Homeland Security should be impeached for it. I'll make one final point. Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary, stood at the podium and laughed about our commentary about the borders being open and our streets being unsafe. Yep. And she lied. She lied about Border Patrol agents whipping migrants. It was purpose to divide our nation by race, same kind of division that has the President of the United States choosing the race and the sex of the Supreme Court justice, the same man who blocked Janice Rogers Brown, blocked a black woman Supreme Court justice, blocked an Hispanic Miguel Estrada because he's Hispanic, because he's not the right kind of Hispanic. That's the truth. That's the administration that wants to divide our countries. They want to lie about our Border Patrol agents, and they don't want to do a dang thing about it. I yield back to my friend from Pennsylvania.
If you'll join me in a colloquy in the remaining 2 minutes, my good friend from Texas, Mr. Roy, sent a letter asking.
This is what gets me. This is the funnest part of using up his time, is that he actually goes and asks this other guy to join him in this colloquy, which is very fun because he asks him a couple questions that you normally don't hear this kind of banter on the floor.
No, it's actually pretty interesting.
Right. Usually don't hear something like this, and this is why I really thought this was very interesting, what happens here.
Yeah.
Asking for the report, didn't we, on this these Border Patrol agents that had been suspended for allegedly whipping these Haitian illegal crossers. And of course, it never happened. Even the reporter, the photographer that took the pictures, said that it never happened. The only thing that was abused or whipped was the truth and the reputation of our fine Border Patrol agents. Where does that stand right now?
Well, I'm glad the gentleman from Pennsylvania asked the question. It stands nowhere. They're not giving us any report. They said it would be a couple of weeks away, and I can tell you why. Because the report will demonstrate there was no whipping. It was a lie. And they owe an apology to those Border Patrol agents who are being abused on the front lines, having gunfire shot at them, dealing with COVID. No apology.
No apology. What about to the American people for lying to the American people and creating this division? Didn't our chief executive run and say that he was going to unite the country? Didn't he say that? He was going to unite the country. Isn't this an opportunity? Release the report. Look, none of us are perfect. We all fall short. I think that's one thing we can agree on. When you fall short, is there something wrong with apologizing for your failures? Is there something that
and
would
the president should apologize for that, and the president should apologize to every parent of a dead American kid who takes Xanax and dies with it laced with fentanyl, because we have open borders, and the secretary knows it.
And the secretary knows it, and the secretary just went to the border, right? Talked to the Border Patrol. And what did they tell him?
And the Border Patrol was saying, what are we doing? We're doing nothing. And that's what the Border Patrol is saying. But my colleagues on the other side of the aisle wouldn't know that, because we never have hearings inviting the people on the front lines to talk and actually hold the secretary accountable.
Well, I thank my colleagues from the Freedom Caucus.
Who did he not call us accountable? The press secretary.
Just for coming and talking.
Who's the press secretary?
About what's happening on the border. I know that the left, the majority party in this House, refused to do it. Certainly the president refuses to do it, but we don't refuse to do it. We're going to do it because our country's in peril, our families are in peril, our community's in peril, and somebody's got to say something and do something about it. Madam Speaker, with that, I yield the balance.
Thank you, Mark.
I really love the colloquy. That was the best.
Yeah, that was
awesome. I'm like, yes.
We need a lot more of that.
Right, more straight, legit talk, as opposed to, this dipshitting around and being like, well, I'm just super sick and tired. Excuse me. Sick and tired of the bullcrap when it comes down to it. And I'm like,
yeah,
we're gonna do a
so,
show.
I mean,
we're gonna do a show and we're gonna have some fun tonight, and we're gonna share some.
Yeah, I mean, like you say that Jen Psaki earlier, you were like, she's really a woman, right? Like she's really. Well, I mean, I don't know, but like if you share this, I mean, it's kind of, might change your mind a little bit, in the other direction.
Right.
Oh, what happened to Jimmy?
I'm not positive what happened to Jim.
The Canadian Mounties took him.
So I said we got quite a night coming. This is where he dips out because he's like, oh, this is what's next. You shit me. We're not going to watch the whole 59 minutes.
Oh, there's another clip.
This is today. This is today's press briefing. So today's press briefing just so happens to be very, punctual as usual. She didn't come on until almost 2, and she said good morning.
Okay, it must not have come through the audio. We're just trying to get everyone some steps this morning or afternoon. Okay. Oh, sure. Thank you, guys. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Chucky.
Okay. Okay. Well, happy Tuesday, everyone. As you all know, just a couple of announcements for all of you at the top. As you all know, the pandemic-induced global supply chain backlog has strained our transportation industry.
Hold on. No, somebody was supposed to actually say something, and now he's not here to actually say it. So look at that dress. You gotta be kidding me. What is this thing? What are these?
I mean, she has the most horrible looking clothing I've ever seen in my life. Like, nothing matches, and it just makes her look like a stupid ragdoll. Like, honest to God. Like, she looks like a freaking vintage ragdoll with, like, puffy shoulders and, like, you know, the big puffy button-up thing that she had in the other article. There was a picture, it was bright red. It's like, you are literally making yourself look like a doll. You're making yourself look like a freaking toy
On the Raggedy
with yarny
Ann.
red hair. And you, yes, and you expect me to take you seriously.
Yeah, this.
That's my point.
Whoever
it's like, really?
told her to wear this was oddly mistakenly wrong on the outfit. It's not something that she should ever wear. She wears too much makeup.
Yeah, I mean, look at her. Like, if you watch her, she wears too much of that, like, I don't know, what do they call it, like that cheek blush or whatever, and it literally makes her look like a freaking vintage ragdoll.
Just
like, she looks like a toy.
Just putting any, and I'm talking to all of them, all women. Stop putting that much makeup on your face. The makeup's not good for your face, for one. Unnecessary, for two. If you think you need that much makeup, there's maybe something else that you maybe need to do with your life to, you know, start feeling better about yourself, so you don't feel that you need to wear that much makeup. Wearing that much makeup is really very, very unhealthy for your skin. And, you know, people just are so ignorant when it comes down to it. And look at how much stuff is caked around her eyes. It's stop.
Or maybe she has to wear that much because maybe she is not a she, maybe she is a he. Ooh.
Oh, is she best friends with Mike Obama?
Yes.
Big Mike.
Big Mike. It's right.
Created a critical shortage of truck drivers. Almost 2 months ago, the Biden-Harris administration launched a trucking action plan to strengthen America's workforce. A key element of this plan is encouraging the trucking industry to recruit and retain well-trained drivers by creating a safe, welcoming, and stable career path with good-paying jobs and family-sustaining wages. We can think of few Americans better prepared to take on this challenge than our nation's veterans, since many have military trucking experience, are familiar with safety, culture, and have maintenance skills. On Friday, the administration met with veteran service organizations representing nearly 4 million veterans to discuss ways that we and the industry could attract, train, place, and retain veterans in trucking jobs. And today, we're pleased to announce the Departments of Labor, Transportation, Defense, Veterans Affairs, and the Small Business Administration will be raising awareness about 16 different federal programs that can connect transitioning military personnel and veterans to rewarding careers in the trucking industry. A highlight of these efforts is the Department of Labor's Registered Apprenticeship Program. So we see this as a win-win-win, getting industry.
It's a win-win-win. Who's winning?
Okay. Now, keep this in mind, ladies and gentlemen, as you listen to this. They are opening the door to the Department of Defense having some sort of influence in the trucking industry. Now, and I say that to say this, that in the same way that in some of these states where they're laying off all of these nurses because they don't take the Fauci ouchie and the jab, right? And they're laying off all these workers. They're putting in National Guard troops, and they're putting in other different people of that nature, of like law enforcement and like, like I said, National Guard and others into those kinds of positions. Now it's like, okay, so we're going to put veterans, and then watch. And the next thing it'll be full blown military. Like the military is just going to take over everything, and we're just going to have that run it, and we're just going to lay off all of you, and the government's just going to take over all of trucking and everything. I mean, that's kind of what this looks like it might be going towards. So just watch for that.
Hello, comrade. Sorry, technical difficulty.
Also wanted to note that, as you've heard the president talk about a fair amount, he's committed to using every tool at his disposal to bring down prices, and you're going to hear him talk and the administration talk a lot about this as the week proceeds. That's why we're working to ease supply chain bottlenecks and give consumers more choices. That's why we continue to push for legislation like Build Back Better and a competitiveness bill that will make our economy stronger, lower the cost of essentials, bring more manufacturing to the United States, and strengthen our supply chains. This week, the president has also been meeting with business leaders and traveling in the country to Virginia, as you know, to highlight his plan to address prices. While we've made remarkable strides with the fastest economic growth
it's a crisis now,
and the most jobs created in 1 year ever, he knows there's more work to do to keep prices down.
1984, that sounds familiar.
He also talked this afternoon, as you just all heard, build more in America, bring down costs through making more in America and rebuilding our supply chains. And as I noted, tomorrow he'll be hosting CEOs at the White House to talk about how Build Back Better can lower energy costs. As you know, he's going to Virginia on Thursday to talk about lowering the price of prescription drugs.
Yes, because there won't be energy that's created enough to be used.
Right?
Because you will have destroyed all of the energy sector. So yeah, there's less energy there because there's less energy that's being created.
You can see the look on her face.
So there's less energy
already
to
disturbed
use,
with
so
the
it's lowering
question that she has to answer.
How do you gentlemen like my Ushanka?
Do you have any information about a possible security threat at Dunbar High School where the second gentleman was? I think he was just taken from the event and it was postponed, but we don't know.
I don't have any updates on this. We will venture to see if we can get to anything, even if it's during the briefing.
It just happened, yeah.
Okay, excellent.
And then second, the remaining child tax credit is, the Biden administration is encouraging people to use what's left of their remaining tax credit. So to what extent do you hope that you can show the benefits of the program to overcome skepticism about the program kind of by getting this last bunch of money out there? One more thing after.
Sure. Well, one of the steps we're trying to take here, which is showcased by the fact that today the Vice President, Secretary Yellen, and Gene Sperling are hosting a day of action with over
Is this going too fast for you guys?
No.
Not for me, no.
No? Okay. Just want to be sure that we're not going, moving on too quick.
Nope.
Because, it's
good.
It's picking up speed pretty quick.
nonprofits and community-based organizations.
There's
To
a
encourage
whole
all American advantage
59
of tax
minutes
credit,
of
expanded child tax credit, and income tax credit when they file their taxes
We're
this
gonna
year.
start skipping.
Part of the reason we're doing that is because we know how effective it is. We know that it helped cut
Because we
child
can
poverty
hear her
by
answering.
40% last year. We know it helped give many families some extra breathing room at a time where the economy was still recovering. And studies show that the child tax credit also helps working families with development and opportunities for their children. It's important to remember, and this is one of the things they'll be talking about today, that Americans that qualified for the extended child tax credit will still receive half of the entire benefit when they file their taxes this year. And yesterday, we launched a new version of childtaxcredit.gov to help Americans get the full child tax credit as tax filing season begins. So part of our effort here is to continue talking about the benefits, how they're helping working families, many who need extra hands to cover childcare costs, and how they're helping give people a little extra breathing room.
And then lastly, if Dr. Lander, the president, accepted his resignation last night, last night. Not to go back to yesterday's discussion, but should he have just fired him to begin with if he was just going to offer his resignation anyway? Spare all of this from yesterday. Should there have been things done differently, I guess?
Well, let me reiterate something I said yesterday, because I think it's important for people to hear that from the outset, Dr. Lander's behavior was unacceptable. Senior White House officials conveyed that to him directly at the conclusion of the investigation. And of course, we talked about that yesterday. And what happened here is we, as a part of the implementation of the safe and respectful workplace policy, something that we implemented and announced last May, or put out there last May, we implemented a process, including an investigation, including a meeting that Dr. Lander had with senior White House officials to convey the severity of his actions and what steps he was expected to take, and the fact that there would be compliant. He would be expected to be compliant. As you saw, we released Dr. Lander's note last night to all of you, or his letter of resignation, I should say. It was made clear to him through the course of the day yesterday, I suppose, that he could no longer lead OSTP effectively. And he conveyed that in his letter. The president accepted his
a lot of that these days.
So I think we're now focused on looking forward. There's obviously OSTP will continue to lead on moving forward, and the president's eager to continue working with them. Go ahead.
That's very true.
You're sick, comrades. Just a little while ago, the Jeff Zucker person.
Late last night, so obviously will continue to be in very close contact with our French counterparts at a range of levels. The president has spoken with President Macron twice in the last week. I expect he'll be engaged with him soon, which we will, of course, to go back to Kelly's question yesterday, make you all aware of.
They're getting engaged.
We're encouraged by any efforts at diplomacy. We can't. We still don't have any prediction of what President Putin will do. We can't control what Russia will do next. What we can do, and what I think President Macron played a role in doing yesterday, is making clear with our allies and partners that there will be massive consequences should Putin choose to further invade Ukraine. But in terms of an assessment, we don't have any new information information or new prediction about where President Putin's head is.
The White House has not received a readout from Ukraine. We saw the president and the chancellor
Literally
yesterday
said
emphasize
he's
this united
willing to
front. We
talk.
did not hear the chancellor
I
about
don't
Nord
know what
Stream
your
2.
problem
There will no longer be
is.
Nord Stream 2, and we will bring an end to it. You heard the German chancellor also convey yesterday that we are working in lockstep and that we are very coordinated in our efforts. In terms of the specifics, we'll let those conversations happen
They
through
love
diplomatic
that
channels. But I
term
would also
lockstep,
reiterate
don't
that Nord
they?
Stream 2
Yeah,
is
they
not
use it a
currently
lot.
operational. We agree that it is a point of leverage.
A whole hell of a
President Putin and the
lot.
Russians. German regulators have suspended certification of the pipeline, and we have been very clear privately, as we have been
What do
publicly,
you think that
about
is?
the fact that it would not continue should Russia.
Because they want
Oh,
to
'cause
give
they're
a sense
freaking
of unity.
Legitimate political discourse storming the
Yes,
Capitol and an
unity
attempt to halt the
underneath
peaceful transition of power is not
totalitarianism.
legitimate political
And of
discourse.
course,
Neither is
you
attacking
know,
and injuring over
Rockefeller,
140 police officers, smashing windows
Rockefeller's,
and defiling
you know,
offices. It's
Operation
telling to all of us
Lockstep,
that
you know,
some
the
leading
white
Republicans
paper,
have
you know.
rejected that characterization,
Take a look at
including the
that.
former president's national security advisor and the chief of staff to the former vice president, who, as he
She
put
sound
it, had
panicked.
front row seat that day, including as riders chanted for the former vice president to be hanged. So again, we certainly reject the notion that that was legitimate political discourse, as we think very be hanged. Who, as he put it, had a front row seat that day, including as riders chanted for the former vice president to be hanged. So again, we certainly reject the notion that that was legitimate political discourse, as we think a large number of Americans would as well. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. I want to ask you about this Army after-action investigation into the Afghanistan withdrawal that was
I mean,
that were learned from it.
They would, as it relates to the end of any conflict or any engagement of that sort. We have always believed that the end of a 20-year war was always going to have significant challenges. As you know, and we talked about at the time, through the summer, we were pressing our system hard. We
What's
just
that have to
established
do with what's
tripwires
going
that
on
would
now?
require us to adjust operations at Embassy Kabul. That's how we looked at it and evaluated it at the time. The NSC led that process and convened regular interagency discussions.
Afghanistan has
And of course,
nothing to
earlier in
do
summer,
with
we
it.
pre-positioned U.S. forces in the region to be ready to facilitate a NEO in preparation of exactly that scenario. I know I reiterate all of that because I know we haven't talked about this in great detail in some time, so I just wanted to lay it all out there. All that work, of course, took months of planning, but we always look at and assess. That's why after-action reports are so important and so essential. In terms of additional reports out of any of these findings, I don't have anything to report from here. I'd really point you to the Department of Defense.
But has the White House had an opportunity to review this particular report?
Well, again, internal discussions and internal reviews of any after-action reports. I don't have any updates.
One of the criticisms from military commanders in the document is that as late as early August of last year, the NSC, quote, appeared to lack a sense of urgency about planning for an evacuation because it would signal that we have failed. What's your reaction to that criticism?
Well, I would say again, earlier we pre-positioned U.S. forces to be ready to facilitate a NEO if needed, meaning an evacuation if needed of our embassy there. That is fact in
Which
terms
is
of what was
why
planning and what
there's
was done
still
at the time. And
tens
that,
of thousands left
in advance
behind.
of that required months of planning to ensure there were a range of through the national security
To
team.
be killed.
It
and through
all
the military
came
team.
to us,
And as we
comrade.
prepared,
Don't worry. We'll use it plenty.
in the early summer to leave Afghanistan, we pre-positioned military assets in the region that enabled us to execute one of the largest airlifts in history. So I would just say if you look back at the specific planning steps we took, we did plan for a range of contingencies, even well,
Yeah,
as
of
we
a
talked
bunch
about at the
of
time, there wasn't an
randos.
anticipation that
They're probably
that
terrorists.
the Afghan National
But
Security
they
Forces
knew
would
that.
fall as they did, or
That's
as
why they
quickly
did
as
it.
they did, and that was not anticipated by anyone. But we still had done a range of
Of
contingencies.
course, they're not idiots.
All on purpose.
The assertion that was
Yep.
made by various military report that
It's too
they were trying
stupid
to convince
to
members of the
actually
administration of
be
the urgency
stupid.
of planning
It's
for the
purposeful.
evacuation, but that they were rebuffed.
Precisely.
Well, again, there was a range of contingency planning that was done in close coordination by all of the players on the national security team at the time to prepare for a range of options and a range of outcomes. No one predicted, as we know, and as we talked about a lot during that the Afghan National Security Forces would fall at the pace they fell. If you look back at the history of what we actually did and what planning was done, there was a range of planning, including positioning military forces.
Are you sure there was a plan?
No, of course there was no plan.
There was a plan to F things up as much as possible. That's
There was
what the
a plan.
plan was.
She says there's a plan. She's the press secretary. She must be telling the truth.
Including ensuring that we had a plan for an NEO operation for evacuation that be needed. So we always look back and assess, but I would say show that we were preparing. Go ahead.
Real quick on this last exchange.
Do you think you did good?
What do you want to be good at?
The
Afghanistan. We're
exfiltration.
hearing sort of the same bleak black assessments right now from the Pentagon about Ukraine. House and Pentagon.
I think it's really important to separate the two because, first, we are not in a 20-year war with U.S. troops in Ukraine. That's a very different circumstance. I would say that we believe and we continue to view our relationship, both from the White House, from the diplomatic team, and from the Defense Department, as one where we are closely coordinating, where there are healthy disagreements,
We
as
can
there can
guess
be,
what the
and the President
questions
certainly
are.
welcomes them. And the after-action reports are
I
very
want the
important
answer
because
is.
you can look at and make assessments about anything you would change moving forward. But Ukraine and the situation on the border of Ukraine with Russia troops building up is not the same as ending a 20-year war. That is something the president had talked about for some time. We were spending an enormous amount of not just money, but blood of American service members over the course of decades. That's a different circumstance.
Mother Russia,
This meeting between Putin and Macron yesterday. It sounds like the White House does not have a clear idea yet about whether there was in fact a deal or not for Russia to de-escalate, or besides rather not to go. Given obviously the Kremlin denied reports that the French put out about having struck a deal. If the U.S. is not aware of where things stand, doesn't that signal that there's a separate negotiating track happening between the Europeans and Russia right now that could put the U.S. at risk of being sort of shut out from that discussion?
Not in any way. I completely disagree with what you just conveyed. There are a range of diplomatic conversations happening all the time, and that's been the case for many weeks.
Obviously, you would. Did you hear the question? Did you hear the question?
No, I was using a little bit.
Okay, we're going to go back a few seconds here. We're going to listen to this question. This goes. Asking her.
De-escalate, or besides rather not to go give any further escalation.
Okay, hold on. Because she's talking really fast.
No, I can understand. She's talking about further escalation.
She is talking fast. She is talking fast. But it sounded like there was something in there that was really something. Go back.
God damn, bro.
The looks that you get the looks of confusion that you get by a 5-second delay.
About whether there was in fact a deal or not for Russia to de-escalate, or besides rather not to go give any further escalation. Obviously, the Kremlin denied reports that the French put out about having struck a deal. If the U.S. is not aware of where things stand, doesn't that signal that there's a separate negotiating track happening between the Europeans and Russia right now that could put the U.S. at risk of being sort of shut out from that discussion?
Not in any way. I completely disagree with what you just conveyed. First of all, there are a range of diplomatic...
What's your thoughts on
I mean,
this?
why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they go separate from the U.S.? I mean, look what happened in Afghanistan. The British Parliament said that they wouldn't do any other thing with the United States government.
The U.S. being a bunch of fucking assholes, yo. They don't want to listen to what Russia's even saying. It's like Russia's over here saying, "Yeah, we'd love to talk. There's plenty of things to talk on. The U.S. all they need to do is just stay out of our way. We're willing to talk until they escalate." That's basically what he said in his briefing. And these guys, they're like, "Well, we could definitely talk, and they're not going to exclude us no matter what we do." It's like.
Thought it was an interesting answer to the question. We don't.
Yeah, and why not let them too? By the way, I mean, like, it's Europe. Like, you know, let them deal with their own affairs.
She didn't agree with her question. She's like, "No, I don't agree."
She says the same thing every time she gets called out. I completely disagree with the characterization of that.
I completely disagree with the characterization of that. That's what she sounds like. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, let's...
Shut out from that discussion?
Not in any way. I completely disagree with what you just conveyed. First of all, there are a range of diplomatic conversations happening all the time, and that's been the case for many weeks. The United States is a key player in the vast majority of those negotiations. At the same time, there are important formats, whether it is bilateral leader-to-leader engagement, which President Macron was a part of yesterday, or the Normandy format, which is something we fully support, which is the format that the Minsk agreement would be discussed through, which includes Ukraine, Russia, Georgia, and France. That's another format that we fully supported. Those are conversations that have been happening, and typically through a diplomatic process, there are a range of conversations that are happening at the same time. Again, as I noted a little bit earlier, the president spoke with President Macron twice over the last week, including on...
Because the potential of, certain countries that have other agreements with other countries, like France having agreements with Russia.
Hey, yo, Frogman.
What's up?
We definitely watched this part, man. I remember her talking about the Normandy thing.
Were you were paying attention earlier, right?
No, I mean, like, I think yesterday we watched this. Or a little while back we watched this.
We watched this earlier today. This is from 2/8.
No, because I remember it got brought up on stream, and then everybody was like, "What is
You
that?"
see the data at the top of the screen there?
Yeah.
That was earlier today.
Yeah, that was from something else.
Oh, was it from something else? Do you remember what I'm
Yeah,
talking about, Shirts? The Normandy thing?
That was
This isn't the first time
that
it's
was
came up then.
yeah, that was yesterday. That was with the
We're-
press conference with Macron and Putin, and they were talking
Right,
about
Putin
the
side.
Normandy.
Yeah.
The Normandy thing, and it was like, oh, what? Yeah.
And we still don't know what that is, huh?
No, we know that it started off
They're
as
packed.
talks between. Yeah,
The four
it's like a
countries have their own secret little pact that nobody's really supposed to know about.
well, it's not even that. It's like a round table type of discussion and between these certain countries, and France is like this
Right.
mediator,
Nobody
and they
else
call
is
it the
invited. It's
Normandy.
just the four
Normandy
countries.
Accords or
So
whatever.
if worse comes to worse, this is what we decide to do or whatever. France could decide to do what they wanted. They could kind of and I'm just guessing or whatever, but they can do whatever they want. They can actually separate themselves away from NATO. And by simply just saying no, we don't agree to this. We agree to this with these guys instead. Get out of.
I don't think they will at all. But, I mean, they theoretically could, but
there's always something that could happen that could tip and change certain things from actually it could be interesting. It could be very interesting. So let's continue with this.
Sunday, the day before he spoke with President Putin, and I expect he'll speak with him soon again. But it's also important to note that there are others. The German Chancellor, who was just here yesterday, is also meeting with President Putin tomorrow. And certainly, if there is diplomatic progress, we would welcome that. But we will believe it when we see it with our own eyes at the border.
On the warships that moved in to the Black Sea, there are some people who are fearing that this is another invasion force potentially targeting the city of Odessa. Obviously, the Kremlin is saying this is just exercises. But is there concern in the White House that, while we're buying time, this diplomatic push, that Putin is just bolstering his forces, building his forces while we're all talking?
Sure. Well, I know that my colleague John Kirby has spoken to this.
Yeah, that is what we are doing, of course.
Are we just standing there watching them, or are we actually moving troops? That's what she wants to know.
Standing around, like.
Are we standing around with our fingers
Loves
up our
in the
butt?
mud. While we are wrestling
From the Pentagon,
bears.
so I point you to his comments. But I would say that we are always going to leave the door to diplomacy open, because we think as long as we don't know what President Putin is going to do, and we don't, and he has not invaded Ukraine at this point, then it is important to always keep that door open, because that's always the preferred path. At the same time, we are not just talking. We have built through 200 engagements. Talking is engaged in part, is an important part of it, I guess. But to build an agreement with our partners and allies in Europe about putting together a severe.
Stutter more, please.
When it all comes together, it sounds very unfluid because it's fast, right? Like if you took us and sped us up, we'd sound miserable. Even
Set of economic consequences should they decide to invade. We have provided an enormous amount of security assistance to Ukraine to make sure they are prepared. So we are working on a number of paths, as you should do. But diplomacy is always going to be the preferred path.
Masks. Yeah. When are we going to hear from the CDC on this guidance? California.
Oh, Susan, we're not doctors. We're not lawyers. We're not, we're just some guys reading the news. We're just listening to what she has to say. We're not speculating anything or trying to tell people to do anything they shouldn't do, because they should go see their doctors and do what's best for them.
Yesterday changed their guidance. Randy Weingarten, Teachers Union, is vocally asking for the White House and the CDC to weigh in. So when are we going to hear from the CDC about updating the guidance on masks?
You'll have to ask the CDC. Moves at the pace of.
Fuck you. Fuck you, bitch. Oh my god. You'll have to ask the CDC because they'll respond.
Now, why isn't this working for me now? Damn it.
Tired of this shit.
Data and science. I would note that our goal remains continuing to ensure that there is guidance that helps school districts stay open. That's our goal. We want kids to be in school. 98% of schools are open. Let me finish. That's a very good sign. We know it works. The CDC is always going to be reviewing their guidance, including mask guidance. But in terms of when they will provide additional new guidance, that is up to them.
Do you believe then that the Democratic-led states who are breaking with the CDC on this guidance, that they're throwing science away and that the CDC has access to different science somehow?
We don't look at it through that prism. These states, I think it's important to Note, they still allow for decisions to be made by local school districts. Where we have great concern is if a kid or a parent chooses to wear a mask, or a school district decides they should keep mask guidance in place, and there are leaders who are preventing them from doing that. That is the place.
Okay, what's going on here? Oh, they got chiming in.
Oh, you mean
What's this?
thing I was sharing?
I got something coming. Somebody wants to add some video. 28 seconds.
President Biden.
All I hear. Not literally.
This is before she, started wearing all the dark makeup.
Obama had a really bad thing with this as well.
She works for Obama. She worked for Obama the entire time before this. So there you go. I guess it rubs off. I don't know. She was
Obama's
other
states, but our hope is that states leaders will look at the science and data about what's going on. They'll make decisions about local school districts. Local school districts have always made these decisions. That remains the case. Go ahead.
I'd like to ask about Supreme Court process.
Yeah,
3 weeks left before the president's
counting. I know.
Has any of this process moved to a point where you are requesting documents, background materials directly from those women who are among the potential choices? And also, how are you facilitating the president in getting advice from allies and so forth on the outside who may want to pitch their favorite contenders? We're certainly seeing lawmakers and others speaking publicly. That's a little different than speaking directly to the president. How is that information getting to him?
Sure. Well, let me start with the second part, and I'll come back to the first, to the best of my ability. So you all have seen that the president has met with very publicly both Chairman Durbin and Ranking Member Grassley. The chairman and the president and vice president have also spoken with a number of members to engage with them, get their feedback. I'd also noted, I think yesterday, that the president has also spoken with a wide range of outside legal experts as he's seeking to consult and to get feedback and advice from them. So he is receiving and engaging with a range of people as he considers this process. I would note also that as he's looking at the process, he's reviewing not just bios, but he's also reviewing, and he is looking at binders of cases because he is taking this approach very seriously. He's taking a very thorough approach to it. In terms of the process, that isn't a part of the process, as you know from covering these, Kelly, vetting documents, and that requires engagement with individuals. I'm not going to get into specifics about where that sits. What I would reiterate and those of you who've covered, we later in the process, the very end of the process is typically when the president would interview candidates. We remain on track to announce a nominee by the end of the month, but that is typically the very end of the process.
Can you say that the field is narrowed a bit from the dozen or so that we were originally talking about?
That is a natural part of the process, but I'm not going to get into specifics of the numbers. Go ahead.
Going back to the after-action report on the Abbey Gate investigation, it's incredible what is in this report. So some of the military officials say things such as, the Department of State did not get one message right to the Afghans during the NEO. Marines at Abbey Gate were forced to play God by identifying who would be allowed into the airfield. One of the reasons you do an after-action report, as you said, is to go back and assess, but isn't it also to allow for accountability? Does the president intend to seek any accountability?
I think we're going to allow a discussion internally to continue about any after-action report. I have no predictions beyond that at this point.
Speaking of accountability, last night, accepting the resignation of Dr. Lander, it's been postulated here in town that perhaps a fair assessment. So the president was not involved?
No, he was not.
He did not seek Dr. Lander's resignation?
He did not. He made the decision himself. Go ahead.
Frontier has announced plans to buy Spirit Airlines. Is there any concern in this administration about reduced competition?
You know, broadly speaking, we always have a concern about reduced competition, but in terms of this potential merger, I don't have any specific comment from here.
Is it under discussion at least?
Again, you know that would be reviewed by the Department of Justice and not from here, so I don't have any additional comment from here.
Under discussion at least?
Again, you know that would be reviewed by the Department of Justice and not from here, so I don't have any additional comment from here. Specific comment from here.
Is it under discussion at least?
About reduced competition, but in terms of this potential merger, I don't have any specific comment from here.
Is it under discussion at least?
Again, you know that would be reviewed by the Department of Justice and not from here, so I don't have any additional comment from here.
China, as it's been widely reported, has largely missed its phase 1 purchase commitments. There's been talk about administration officials voicing this week disappointment over that and frustration. What is the president prepared to do on that front?
Well, I would say first that hold on, I have some update on this. Let me just make sure I have enough up-to-date information. 1 moment. Thanks for your patience. As you know, and have been following this closely, Alex, the USTR has been in conversations with China about its performance regarding purchase commitments under Phase 1, which they did not meet in 2020 and did not meet in 2021. And they have conveyed, and I just reiterate on their behalf, the USTR officials, it is on China to show them follow through on its commitment. So again, this is under the purview, as you know, of Ambassador Tai. We have expressed our concerns, we have them, in terms of specifically what the president would be prepared to do. We're going to continue to engage with him. Ambassador Tai and the trade team to determine next steps. Again, the USTR, our Ambassador Tai, is the one who runs point on this, and I would point to her for any additional comment on the current status.
There's some talk on.
Tai is the one who runs point on this, and I would additional comment on the current.
Finally, there's some talk on Capitol Hill about congressional unionizing. Does the president support that?
He does. he supports the right of any individual to seek to join a union, to collective bargain. And of course, Capitol Hill staffers are certainly individuals who are pursuing that.
In touch with those folks?
Our staff been in touch with them? I would really point you to congressional leadership. I know Speaker Pelosi and her team have spoken to this as well. Go ahead.
In touch with those folks?
Our staff been in touch with them? I would really point you to congressional leadership. I know Speaker Pelosi and her team have spoken to this as well. Go
Yes,
ahead.
because they don't get paid enough.
Truckers in Canada last night shut down the Ambassador Bridge, which carries about a quarter of U.S.-Canada trade in goods. So what's the administration's response to this action, and what steps are being taken to ensure the free flow of goods, and also any preventative steps being taken to address a possible blockade on the Michigan side of that bridge?
Well, let me first start by saying I know there's been some suggestion, not by reporters necessarily at all, but that this congestion is related to the vaccine requirements. It's not. I'm saying I'm going to get to the protests, but the protests going on across Canada, which have spread to a bridge, are leading to sporadic congestion and blockages. I would just to go back to my point I was trying to make is that across what we've seen with these requirements, is across a range of industries, vaccination requirements have been implemented with no disruptions, have helped increase vaccinations. These requirements help protect more people from COVID, and there's been zero indications, including on this policy. We of course support, as you know, the right speech and protest. But while we do see some of these congestions due to protests, it's clear that these disruptions have broadened in scope beyond the vaccine requirement implementation. Beyond that, we are of course in touch with our Canadian counterparts, but I don't have any updates in terms of specific steps.
On Ukraine, so in yesterday's briefing, you mentioned that the Minsk agreements were part of these Macron and Putin talks. And
it has nothing to do with the Fauci ouchie? So I guess these people just like lost gas all at once, so they just decided to stop with signs that say no jabbies and stabbies.
Across a range of industries, vaccination requirements have been implemented with no disruptions, have helped increase vaccinations. These requirements help protect more people from COVID, and there's been zero indication across these industries that they would lead to disruptions, including on this policy. We of course support, as you know, the right to freedom of speech.
Which is why they're all saying no.
And protest, but we.
You don't say.
But while we do see some of these congestions due to protests, it's clear that these disruptions have broadened in scope beyond the vaccine requirement implementation. Beyond that, we are of course in touch with our Canadian counterparts.
There seems to be an awful lot of percentage that still seems to think it's the thing to do.
But I don't have any updates in terms of specific steps.
I follow what the CDC tells me to do.
Ukraine. So in yesterday's briefing, you mentioned that the Minsk agreements would possibly be a part of these.
Jump off a bridge. I'm going to do it.
Talks, and now that it's over, is the U.S. discussing directly with any of the parties the use of the Minsk agreement as a possible way out of the conflict, as President Zelensky has suggested? Do you see that as a sort of a fruitful pathway as a diplomatic agreement?
Well, we see the Minsk agreements, which are discussed through the Normandy format, which I was talking about a little bit earlier, as certainly a format to move things forward. We stand ready to support these sincere efforts. And again, we welcome calls for diplomatic resolution to the conflict in eastern Ukraine, and the Minsk agreement is if those could take place through.
Well, I guess there's been some suggestions that the Minsk agreement.
That's why you have freaking, troops and everything already lined up. You're training Ukrainian people. You have all kinds of NATO bullshit lined up, ready for Ukraine to use. Like, no, it's, we want diplomatic solution, which is why we've been in a freaking proxy war for the past, I don't know, since 2014 and 2015.
We're not moving thousands and thousands of troops into place to, catch any, thing that, any flyby, any missed targets. You know dang well there's going to be something where they're going to be like, oh, you know what? There's another one. Why don't you just go take that person out? And, be like, yep, done.
And then they want this.
Right, because, if you look at the death toll, under current administration has a larger death toll than it had been in a while. Nowhere near the expertise of the previous administration of only having done a couple of strikes and took out the enemy.
Because all they know how to do is
would be unfavorable.
Fuck this country up purposefully.
There you go.
Toward Ukraine, if implemented in the way that the Russians want it implemented. So is the U.S. coming down in any way on one side?
We are not. We just see them as a format through which there could be discussion and continued engagement.
Lastly, quickly on competition, Tyson Foods stock went up very high yesterday. I think it's highest in about 2 years on the back of record profits on rising meat prices. So how does that pose a challenge to your administration's efforts to address competition in that industry?
Well, just 4 large conglomerates control the majority of the market for beef, pork, and poultry products, and the data shows, and I think their record profits are evidence of this, that there have been increases in meat prices while the companies have generated recent record profits, and that's a good example of it. And I would just note, just if you look at historical precedent here, 50 years ago, ranchers got over 60 cents for every dollar a family spent on beef. Today, they get about 39 cents. 50 years ago, hog farmers got 40 to 60 cents for each dollar they spent. Today, it's about 19 cents, and the big companies are still making major profits. It certainly shouldn't work that way, and as the president has said many times, capitalism without competition isn't capitalism, it's exploitation, and we have continued concern about the lack of competition in these industries. Go ahead, Mark.
I have a lander.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
Who
They
owns
don't give
the
a damn. All
most
those companies gave
farmland
Biden money to be
in
put
the
in
United
office.
States right now?
Wait, who?
Who owns
government.
the most farmland in the United States
Oh,
right now?
First, we've got population.
Wouldn't it be? Does Monsanto
Gil
own a lot
Bates.
of farmland?
Yes, I do. I own lots. I own it all. Well, in my head, anyway. It's getting there, though. It's really, it's really getting there.
Ukraine question. First of all, will Rachel Wallace get her job back?
I have that. I have jab hands. You know, sticking out. It's makes me feel like a god. It's really great. I have corn that can grow in aluminum. Did you know that? Aluminum rich soil. Nothing else can grow but my corn and soy. Because you know how much you all love your soybeans.
Check and see in the internal HR process. I'm happy to do that.
And since you've made it clear that he was
Jimmy
resigned, he was
shuts
not
down
fired,
when Psaki's
how does this comport with Clinton's pledge to fire you, quote, on the spot if he found out about any kind of mistreatment?
So what we did early in the administration, after he made those comments, which I think that were the first or second day in office, was our team, our HR team, our legal team, others worked to put in place a safe and respectful workplace policy. And that policy, which is about a 6-page document, I think we've made it available to all of you, and we're happy to reshare it if useful. That was a process through which there was an investigation into these allegations. That was a process through which there was an investigation into these allegations. There was a conclusion of that investigation, which is about our team, our HR team, our legal team, others worked to put in place a safe and respectful workplace policy. And that policy, which is about a 6-page document, I think we've made it available to all of you, and we're happy to reshare it if useful. That was a process through which there was an investigation into these allegations. There was a conclusion of that investigation. At the conclusion of that, Eric Lander, Dr. Eric Lander, met with senior members of our officials who made clear what steps needed to be taken and that he would be required to be compliant with those. So that was actually an implementation of the president's commitment and in an effort to create a process for a large administration to maintain a healthy work environment and create a channel to address issues as they come up.
You raise your arms again like that?
Well, I think in any workplace, and one where, like the White House, you need to have a process and a process through which employees can present any concerns they have, any allegations they have, and that there's a process that those can be seen through. And that's exactly what happened in this case.
On Ukraine, if you could explain to ordinary Americans who find the domestic politics of other countries very mystifying, why couldn't Chancellor Schultz say the words Nord Stream pipeline? He was asked numerous times, not just in the press conference yesterday, but also later in interviews. Why? Why can't he spit out the words that President Biden said?
Well, here's what I can speak
know
for, which is
asking this question. She's on Fox all the friggin' time. I know this woman's voice out of any voice. God, she works for what is it, USA Today or something?
Look at that image still.
That's perfect.
She looks like what's his face from Uncle Fester.
She looks like what's it face?
Uncle Fester from the Addams Family.
Oh my God, she does. Holy hell. The eyebrow in the air, all she needs is a light bulb right there in her mouth, and bam.
I think of a different Uncle Fester.
She's wearing the black too. She's wearing the black.
This isn't what Uncle Fester looks like in my head. You guys are a little strange.
Look at that hunch.
Well, if he was wearing a wig and trying to be a tranny,
he did wear a wig.
Lost some weight.
He did wear that wig, and it was orange too.
Wait, in the TV show?
In the movie.
Oh, in the movies.
In the one movie when he has to have that new wife or whatever, he gets that new wife. And she's all
I only see it in black and white. I don't see it in color. But I mean, just look at that face.
What's the problem? I thought you wanted pepperoni on your pizza. I didn't know any better.
I thought you liked this. I always select this kind of stuff for Comrade Jimmy because
Well, hey, hold
I know
on.
how.
I mean,
What's up?
Shirts wants to do a thing.
Shirts got something.
Yeah, where is? Oh, I don't have it. Here we go. So, I mean, while we have it here at this face, and we're comparing this face to that of the face of of potentially a man here, right?
Oh,
you know, can we like tie this here in? I mean, look at this.
Oh,
I mean, come on.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, look. I mean, really? I mean, are we really expected to believe that this thing is actually female? Because I don't know. I mean, this is pretty convincing to me here. I mean, that's
Jesus.
like, I mean,
okay, now look up Uncle Fester with the wig.
Its face is just undeniable. I mean, like, God.
If it's in color, it's not right. There's something wrong.
It's
Uncle Fester.
Don't be a Puritan, man. Let people have their fun.
I mean, oh yeah, that looks like her. Look at that. Oh, my shared still? Yeah, okay, I'm sure still. Yeah, look at that. Uncle Fester. Big. Oh my God! It's her!
I told you.
Okay, hold on. Leave it there.
Holy freak!
I mean,
oh my God! Holy hell! What?
Oh my gosh, it's so good,
folks. I
really like how the internet works very, very well.
I think we found our suspect here. I think we found it. Oh yeah, there's the light bulb. There's
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think we found it. I think we found it there. Dang. Spitting image right there. Right there. I mean, look at the mascara,
makeup,
right?
yes.
The dark I mean, it's perfect. It goes right,
It's right there. Holy
U.S.
man.
government, of course, and President Biden, and our commitment and agreement that if Russia invades, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward. It is still not operational at this point in time.
I'm just asking if you could give us any insights into why Germany can't say that.
You are.
Why can't Germany say that? Because it's why wouldn't another country say something if it was true?
And like, this is the dumbassery of this woman that's asking this question. Like I said, I know who the hell this woman is. Like,
or a very industrious reporter, Mara, and I'm sure you can pose that question to the Germans as well.
I mean, legit. Like, why don't you ask the German freaking prime minister, whoever the hell he is, like when he's here? Like, why are you asking her? Like, what the hell does she know? Like, oh yeah, I called him yesterday and he told me. Like, what the hell?
She didn't make it on the list yesterday, so before she goes home, she needs to do a couple things.
These are all pre-prepared questions.
Probably.
See if I can't get a couple good stories, to come along with, so that way I can get a 3-day weekend.
And Jimmy's probably right. It's like a pre-prepared question of like, oh yeah, we're just taking up time here. Like, oh yes, we're answering questions. What's your question? What do you think the German prime minister, his opinion on this was, or why can't he say this, or why can't he do that? It's like,
what's Joe Biden's
she literally doesn't even
favorite
represent
ice cream?
him.
Can you tell us, please? We must know.
I can only.
Right. It's like one of those questions, right?
Our government, and you heard the president say and reiterate many times yesterday how strong our relationship and our alliances, how Germany is one of the most important allies we have in the world.
Germany is one of the most important allies to have in the world.
Really?
Why is that? I mean, I'm not talking bad about Germany.
Because they're the strongest nation in Europe.
How is it that Germany just so happens to be that strong of an ally to the United States? Is it because of NATO? Because now, if I'm not mistaken, NATO, you can kind of come and go depending on the year that you actually sign up from it. There's like a 2-year commitment, something or other. I mean, I can see somebody just ripping out of the, taking out, saying, "Nope, I'm out of here. I'm not dealing with your stuff no more. I'm going to go sit here. I'm going to get invaded by somebody else."
Well, Trump was threatening to do that.
He was.
Trump was threatening to remove us from NATO because NATO, the rest of the countries weren't paying anything.
Speaking of Trump, we need to do another Trump rally.
Yeah, let's get kicked
How we have full
off
confidence
again.
and faith in their commitment to implementing a strong outcome or strong consequences should Russia invade.
Let's see when the next one is.
If I heard you correctly earlier, you were saying that President Biden was not involved in directly seeking Dr. Landler's resignation, but can you clarify if he accepted the resignation because of the investigation or because of the public outcry around it?
Well, I would say if you go back to the letter that Dr. Lander submitted, this is very small type. I don't know if this means I'm getting older, but that letter was that he did not feel that it was possible to continue effectively in his role. He conveyed that, and he also conveyed that he felt the work of his office was too important. And the president, was that the result of the public response or the response of his team? You have to ask Dr. Lander that question, but the president accepted the resignation.
The investigation was completed in December, so
actually it was completed. The full process was completed at the very end of January.
And so why was it?
Why the hell do I care?
I was kind of wondering the same thing. Do we care about these couple lines of questions
until after it became?
Nobody gives
Well, there was an entire process that was leading a meeting with Dr. Lander conveying exact actions absolutely unacceptable and would not be tendered. And of course, these things are reported sometimes, as they were. But to keep HR processes private in part, they did it in this case. And that's
yes, we answered questions.
Can you say when the president learned of the internal investigation and if he was briefed on it before this became a more public subject yesterday?
He was made aware in.
A few weeks ago, the president had talked about in his press conference about the desire to get out of Washington.
Yes, he's still trying. He's trying to get on that plane.
That's my question, I guess. He's had a trip to Pittsburgh. He's had a trip to New York. As you alluded earlier, he's going to Virginia. Is this the robust kind of schedule that he's looking for, or is there something that's keeping him in Washington? Can you talk a little bit?
Well, I think there are a couple of things that obviously every president juggles, and including this president is juggling right now. If he could spend every day on the road, he probably would do that.
What's he juggling?
Biden can't even juggle his eyeballs in his head.
Can't even juggle his own
if he could spend every day on the road, he would. Really now.
Like he can't even twist his eyeballs around his head, like move his eyes, you know?
Well, I think there are a couple things that obviously every president juggles, and including this president is juggling right now. If he could spend every day on the road, he probably would do that. And when you're traveling as president, the world comes with you a bit, but there's certainly an open Supreme Court spot that he needs to fill. He takes very seriously, wants to approach that. Very thorough, with a thorough. Of course, he's getting regular updates on Russia and Ukraine and the buildup of troops on the border. So there are a number of course, important priorities that at times can keep a president here, maybe are keeping the president here. However, I think we'll.
How much? So
allegedly
that clip that supposedly tears into Ted Cruz that we caught. That one, we watched that one when we actually did the. God dang it.
We'll be getting more. He'll be getting out there more in the country. Other fire one of us, I don't know, but he's eager to do that. He wants to be out in the country, and I think as we get to the period of time post State of the Union, I think you'll see more of that. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. Just a quick follow-up on Kelly. Has the president spoken with
which female?
Oh yeah, how much more is he going to talk about how the United States should debate on going over to authoritarianism during the State of the Union? I wonder.
Clyburn about his advocacy that has been very prominent for Judge J. Michelle Childs to the Supreme Court?
I don't have any updates on specific members he's engaged with beyond the ones we've read out or you've seen publicly. Though I would say members of our Supreme Court team, you're very familiar with, have been engaged with a range of members, including Mr. Clyburn.
And back on Ukraine, what was the president's response to this U.S. assessment that a Russian invasion of Ukraine could kill 25 to 50,000 civilians and cause a humanitarian crisis that would end up with 5 million refugees?
5 million refugees.
But hey, let's just start dropping tacticals.
Where are these 5 million refugees going? Wherever they want?
To America.
Are you going to ship them across? Let them come walk up across the border?
Probably. Who knows?
How's this going to work?
They'll just take them like the Afghanis, just a bunch of randos, just stuff them in a plane and send them over.
End up, come walk up to there. You best be, thinking about home turf as well.
course, then again, they might be like Christian people, so
Well,
maybe
first
they
let me
wouldn't
say I'm
want
not going to
them.
get into intelligence assessments from here, obviously, but we certainly.
No, I'm not saying
there's
that
that
we're not
aspect.
going to welcome any of them, because you know dang well we're going to welcome some of them. But you don't do the same thing that you did with the Somalis that you left in the state of Minnesota to band together.
We love our Somalis.
So that they can come
we
up
love
and
our
pick up
Muslims.
some
Oh, they're so
random
good.
Elon
Oh, they're so
Omar
sweet.
style person to actually run their show that doesn't like the country.
I
that
was
he
watching
lives in.
Fox News the other day. So I worked out this morning.
Prepare for a range of contingencies and work and engage with our European partners and counterparts to prepare for them. And that relates to the potential Secretary of State as a part of, and that.
Even though the German Chancellor would not say that. So I guess logistically speaking, how would the president ensure that that would not happen?
I'm just not going to get into more specifics from here, but I can assure you that that is a commitment and one we will deliver
Would that
on.
include sanctions on anyone or any company that does business with the pipeline? What does that look like?
I understand what you're asking. I just don't have more details I can outline from here at this point.
In hindsight, does he regret waiving sanctions on the company behind Nord Stream 2 as the administration did last year?
Well, Nord Stream 2 is not operational at this point in time.
But does
And
he
it remains a point of leverage.
become operational?
Oh, there it is. There's the admission, ladies and gentlemen. As I said yesterday, Nord Stream is the point of leverage. They wanted them to go ahead with it. That's why Biden gave them the okay earlier last year. And now it's like, oh, see, now this is our point of leverage.
Mm-hmm. This is our
There's the
leverage
admission.
point. Why is it your leverage point? Why does that have to be your leverage point? Oil's always the leverage point. And no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, it's always going to be the leverage point. That is the commodity that everybody wants so much of, and I don't even want to get into what everything comes out of plastic, plastics and stuff. Everything that comes out of oils. The second that you pump oil through or whatever, and you actually go to bring it to a refinery, and then it goes through different processes to actually be turned into things like plastic. If you don't realize that, you need to go and do a little bit of homework, do some research. YouTube's a wonderful place to actually find lots of videos on different things. Yeah, right. It's amazing, what you can actually learn on YouTube, and stuff like.
But the biggest thing
from
for
oil. And how you make things like the wind turbines, and how you make solar panels, and what it all goes into actually making this stuff, and what it actually comes from, all the metals and all the polyfibers and stuff that they're using. It's all oil-based product. So I mean, the second that it's no longer usable because whatever it wears out, it ends up in the landfill. So you're just contaminating more land with more product like oil-based shit is. It's the whole process. When you got to start thinking of things before you're doing.
Yeah. But the biggest thing with oil, though, I mean, we all know this for right now anyway, is energy. Well, and the biggest thing for oil on the opposite side of that as well is money.
And it burns, and you see all that smoke that it's releasing into the air. It's like, it's not really that much. It's not, like you're playing a video game and you're like, oh, I see how that's the dirty energy. And if you actually do play those games and you see how this is the dirty energy that we're actually playing around with or whatever, and you actually look on there and what it actually shows for the clean energy. And the cleanest energy is actually the nuclear power. But people don't even think of that. It's just ridiculousness in this world of people being so Minnesotan backwards on that. It's just the way it is, man.
Well, it's not. The German regulators have not approved it. So it's not operational. It hasn't been. So I don't think we're looking in the rearview mirror. I think we're looking at it as a point of leverage with the Russians.
But I guess the question is that he was quite aggressive in his speech. He's amassed over 100,000 troops on their border. He clearly is seeking to use leverage over them. So why let the pipeline go forward at all, regardless of an invasion, given the tactics that he's been using?
Well, again, I would say that there's a disagreement. I'm not sure this is what you're asking, but between us and some in Congress who suggest that that sanctioning Nord Stream 2 now would be effective. We don't agree. We believe that it is a point of leverage, and that making clear it will not proceed if Russia invades is a point of leverage.
See, like if you were actually principled, you would put sanctions on everything and just be like, hey, stop, let's have talks, right? But no, they want to use this to try to manipulate the entire situation with Russia because Russia needs to make money from this.
Because no matter what you think about it, that pipeline is getting finished. That pipeline is getting finished regardless to what exactly happens, whether it's just that they burn a trench and they go and say lay the pipe, or if they, it doesn't matter what they do. They're seriously, that's what they're aimed at. It just, the whole, so stupid.
That's why we're proceeding on the path we are. We don't think that approach would work. Go ahead.
There's been some reporting that President Biden has kind of refused to mention Tesla when he's talking about electric vehicles. Just kind of did some reporting on that. Today he mentioned Tesla when he was talking about electric vehicles. Anything noteworthy there? Any change in how he approaches this?
I would just note, I think we all know that Tesla is a major...
We all have feelings about electric vehicles. Electric vehicles are just talking about, wind turbines and solar panels polluting, and now you're going to go talk about the mercury levels of things and the pollution that the batteries from these cars is going to cause in the future. Just got to start thinking about it. You really do. You're like, oh, but it's so much cleaner than my gas-fueled car. Well,
and you got to be really careful with some of those battery-operated cars like that. I mean, like, holy hell! I mean, you do something wrong with those things, that's a bomb,
right? I mean, people.
That'll just pop and just go off.
Seriously don't think about certain things. They just think that one-track mind, and they're like, oh, it's about what, just some stupid crap that they're gonna put a slogan on.
And that's the thing too, is that none of this technology is perfected at all, but yet they want to jam this down our throats. So what's that going to do? Well, it's going to wreck everything, and that's the whole point.
This clean energy thing that they're actually pushing is ignorance. People don't think. They're seriously. Use your brain for 2 seconds.
You're a producer of electric vehicles. I think
certain people have.
That's fair to say, factually. And certainly the industry is one that we feel is a huge opportunity for the United States to move toward our clean energy goals.
The China competition bill includes a measure that would require a broad screening process of outbound international investments into China. Not in the Senate one. Does the White House support that particular measure? I know National Security Advisor Sullivan has discussed that in general.
Yeah. So right now, as you know, they're in conference or they're discussing, and we are looking at the impact of outbound U.S. investment flows that could circumvent the spirit of export controls or otherwise enhance the technological capacity of our competitors, which is something I think our National Security Advisor has touched on in ways that would harm our national security, which we would certainly be concerned by. We're in touch with Congress about the proposal and also our efforts broadly in this regard. But again, we're going to keep working that through Congress, and that's with leaders there, and that's where the focus is at this point.
Last question. Does the climate of high oil and gas prices influence how the White House administration approaches sanctions on Iran and Venezuela with an eye getting more supplies into the market?
Well, let me just outline for you, and I don't know if Edward's here. Oh, there you are. He asked me this question yesterday, and I just wanted more detail, so I'm just coming back to it a little bit. The president's.
You're circling back. That's what you're doing. You're circling back. Just use your term. That's your term. It's okay. You can say it all you want. Circle back.
Yep, she's kind of refrained from saying that a lot, hasn't she? Because people have been making fun of her,
right.
Rightfully so, because she sounds like an idiot.
She doesn't like to let the things just trickle down her back. Things hurt. Make her sad.
There you are. He asked me this question yesterday, and I just wanted more detail, so I'm just coming back to it a little bit. The president's focused on to address the squeeze that we know gas prices can have on families. As he has said, supply of oil around the world should be keeping up with the demand as we're exiting the pandemic. So there's a couple of areas that we are focused on, and you're familiar with them, but let me just outline them.
Which is why you shut down oil production in the United
oil-producing and oil-consuming countries. These discussions are happening right now. They're ongoing. With oil-producing countries, we're talking about proposed production increases. With oil-consuming countries, we're talking about releases from strategic reserves. Of course, we're not going to outline every conversation, but that's largely how we're approaching it. 2, the president's going to continue to use every tool at his disposal to reduce prices. We've already announced a historic release from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve last fall. of 50 million barrels. 40 million barrels of those barrels are contracted for delivery, including 13 million that we just released in January.
What,
So as you,
to
this is not,
India?
it wasn't that 50 million released at once. They're continuing to be released. We saw a drop in prices, which fell more than 10 cents a gallon in the course of the holiday season after some of that initial release. And all options remain
there
on
it
the table.
is. There it
Third,
is. There
we're
it
focused
is.
on protecting consumers
we
from abuse. We know
decreased
markets
it
have
over the
been
holiday
volatile.
season.
Often
That's what I
firms
said they were gonna do.
exploit market volatility to extract excess profits from consumers. We're looking at every
Now
legal and
they're going
regulatory
backwards in
authority
time.
we have available to ensure consumers are protected. That means responding to any sign of manipulation, while commodities markets or gauging at the pump. So we are looking at it, we are approaching it through all of those forums. And the president's overarching view on prices, of course, is that he wants to address the squeeze on consumers. Is that nobody, now that even with barrels, even with those barrels release prices are rising, that's because supply is not keeping up with the demand. We know that is the issue, the core issue. Nobody should hold back supply at the expense of the American consumer, particularly as the recovery from the pandemic continues and oil producers around the world have the capacity to produce at levels that match demand and reduce the high prices. That is what we're going to continue to convey.
One real quick point of clarification. You announced the cooperative releases already, and in a statement you suggest that maybe there's conversations are ongoing.
Yeah.
Should we assume that there may be future cooperative releases then?
All options remain on the table, but I don't have anything to preview at this point in time. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jim, following up on the a similar protest in Washington, D.C., possibly for March 1st, to oppose COVID vaccine mandates. That dates obviously would coincide with President Biden's State of the Union address. As you know, the trucker convoy in Ottawa has been very disruptive and paralyzed parts of the city's downtown. Is the administration making preparations to be ready for an upcoming Freedom Convoy planned for D.C.? And does White House have any concerns about a similar protest happening here in the nation's capital?
And do you mean by preparations like security preparations, or do you mean
preparation, or is it on your radar?
I'd have to check with our team on security preparations. I think what I would just reiterate here is that we know that requirements work. We have not seen a disruption as it relates to requirements.
Do they?
To the industry, where we have seen
Do they really work?
disruptions has been related to these convoys and protests. Now, everybody can peacefully protest. We fully support that, but it's important to note where the disruption is occurring.
The disruption. So like, what the hell is this, like, you know, freaking bullshit language she's using here? Like, is she just trying to offhandedly say, oh, people aren't protesting the Fauci ouchie. They're actually just, you know, they're just protesting for the hell of it. You know, like, I mean,
that's exactly
what is she trying to say?
It's all just shits and giggles. It's fine.
Convoys and protests. Now, everybody can peacefully protest. We fully support that, but it's important to note where the disruption is occurring.
On a different topic, forgive me if I missed this earlier, does the White House plan to fill Doctor's position? How quickly would you want to nominate somebody?
Oh, we do. I don't have an update on the timing, but certainly the president is confident in the expertise of the OSTP team and their ability to move forward on key components of the agenda they're responsible for.
Topic. The White House has recently held kind of local ECD announcements here with the Intel project 2 weeks ago in Ohio, today with the electric vehicle station facility in Lebanon, Tennessee. And so I'm curious, what is the federal government's role then in these sorts of announcements versus the governors of these two states in terms of getting these projects?
If he knew so specifically that he was going to choose a black woman to become the next SCOTUS, how does he not know exactly who the person is yet?
Because they got plenty to pick from.
That doesn't make sense. If you know that specifically that it's going to be a black woman, you haven't narrowed it down the right way to get to the correct person that should be in that seat.
Oh, well, yeah.
Now,
George Soros is getting old here, people. Come on, you know, give him a little, cut him a little slack here. You know, he gets a little slow moving here. You know,
okay. Now the thing is what I was getting at, whatever was there. You know, these people are, you know, they're appointed to these lifelong positions for reasons, because they've actually had a track record that puts them there, that, you know, make them the good person to actually be selected for that position. And I'm, like I said, I'm not against being a black woman. I'm totally for it. Totally for it. That's awesome. That's awesome. But to be the first selected thing that you actually use, you're racist.
Yeah, like the very first box.
You're straight up racist if that's the first thing that you go to select the person that you're going to put up there. Because there's plenty of people in this world that are most likely able to do the job just as well, if not better, than one of these women that you're going to choose. Again, I'm not against it being one of these women. I'm totally fine with it. It's going to end up being that way anyway. We've already been told this. but you should know which one it is by now. You shouldn't have had it selected down to 5 or 6. You should have already kind of went through a lot of the process of actually getting yourself down to who is actually, they could have done anything and made it, between a black woman and 4 other, ethnic women, whatever, and kind of played around with it and had fun with it. And then made it be that it was this, black woman that gets the spot, as opposed to actually saying, oh, it's going to be a black woman. Because that's, it's just wrong. I'm so sick of this shit. What's this bitch has to finish saying?
So just so I understand your question, what are we, in terms of how do we get them the money?
Yeah, these are traditionally the kind of projects you might expect the governor to announce. And instead, we're seeing them here in the White House. What kind of role is the Biden administration have? I mean, are you working in tandem with these governors? Or
Typically, yes, exactly. And if the governor can attend, we typically invite them. Of American businesses and companies, and especially companies that are creating jobs here in the United States and putting people back to work. Go ahead, Katie.
Thanks, Jen. The military invasion kind of defined it traditionally as tanks on the ground. So if Putin attacks but doesn't send massive forces over the border, perhaps through cyber attacks or through paramilitary forces, does the president feel the Western alliance could still present a united front, given his conversation with the chancellor yesterday?
Sure, we have a range of contingencies. I certainly understand your question, but I don't have anything more to detail here. Obviously.
Why does she never have anything good?
Yeah, exactly.
Why can't she just, I don't have anything for you because I haven't talked to this specific, branch or this specific person or this is, you should go talk to them. And it's like, that's what your job is. Your job is to know all of it. So that way, when we ask the questions, somebody has the answer. Because the press secretary is supposed to know all the answers to all the questions. That's her job.
Obviously, we don't think Nord Stream 2 is a good deal or a good project. We've been very.
She's there. She's just very good at speaking bullshit.
No, I could be wrong, but I thought I heard something about she was potentially going to not be in this position eventually. She was going to move on.
Very clear about that. And I think right now what we're focusing is what we think the right diplomatic tactic is as part of our approach. And that includes making clear that Nord Stream 2 will not proceed, given, of course, President Putin and the Russians want it to proceed. But we have a range of contingencies. Should Putin invade? Should he take other additional steps? And we're going to continue to work to be lockstep with our partners.
Just to clarify, so if it's a cyber attack or paramilitary or anything besides
Lockstep.
tanks, would he pull, well, I know it's not operational, but would he stop Nord Stream from going forward?
Again, I don't have anything more to update you on. We have a range of contingencies.
To every question.
Depending on if any steps President.
To every
Would he still
dang
keep the
question.
science advisor post? Would that still be cabinet level? I know that was at first. Okay.
Go ahead, Karen.
And, the president said yesterday he believes President Putin still has a diplomatic off-ramp, that de-escalation is still possible. Last month at the press conference, less than 3 weeks ago, the president said about Putin, my guess is he will move in. He has to do something. Does he no longer believe that President Putin has to do something? And if that's the case, what has changed in a couple of weeks?
Well, I mean, he either has to de-escalate or invade. Obviously, our preference is that he de-escalates. So I'm not sure. I think that's what the president likely meant in the time. We didn't at the time, nor do we now have an assessment of him making a decision. And we can't control what Russia will do next. What we can do is we can prepare, and we can prepare for a range of contingencies, and we can stay coordinated with our partners and allies, and that's what our focus has been.
You mentioned at the top of the Thursday event in Virginia.
I mean, pause this for just a second. This is the perspective that these people have. He can either withdraw everything or invade. It's not like he can just keep a force on the border and be like, okay, y'all back off because this is our border. No. He can't keep anything there on the border. He has to evacuate his border, basically. Or else, the other option he has is just to invade Ukraine. Isn't there an option of protecting your own sovereignty, your own border with troops? I mean, I'm just pointing out, this is the perspective they have of he doesn't have a right to do any of this, period. He doesn't have any right to put any troops there to respond in any way. He should just do whatever the hell we want. I mean, that's the perspective, right? It's he could just either do what we want or invade or whatever, It's I mean, that's these elitist bastards' perspective. So, anyways, and it's coming through her. So there you go. Uh-oh.
Seems that somebody's still awake and wants their dad. Go figure. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's about time for, this bitch to get finished with. I'm so sick of listening to her.
And certainly talking about, I can see if we have more details on the specifics. It's still all getting finalized. And let me just see who's been invited to the event and who's planning to attend, and we'll get you more details.
One of the options for Ukraine would be also an option.
Open door policy would be a problem. We agree with that. And as we've said previously, we're committed to the right of sovereign nations to make their own decisions about their security.
And maybe we see there is
Except Russia.
There was a press conference, and there are new questions about are the allies.
And is that we are aligned, and there will be severe consequences. And sovereign, I guess is my point, to ensure.
Is going to be the truckers and then Russia. But first, the Canadian the movement in Canada, the truckers. So the Ottawa mayor has asked for 1,800 additional police officers to quell what he called the insurrection. You know that it's been a rallying cry for the far right, this movement, and accused the protesters of trying to blockade Canada's economy and democracy. That's the why.
Excuse me? Doesn't everybody get democracy?
Yeah, that's a good one. Tell another.
House share this perspective on the movement?
That's not how we described it.
Do you said yesterday, just again, that the CBP was not impacted by the movement at the moment. Now, with what happened at the bridge, it has had an impact. Isn't that, shouldn't the White House put more emphasis on what's going on the other side of the border?
I don't think we've ever de-emphasized. I just think I was trying to convey that while there was kind of a view by some that it wasn't. It was related to congestion created by the protests, which I think is important for people to understand. In terms of what's being done, of course, we're closely engaged. Department of Homeland Security would be the right entity to talk to. Go ahead.
Just the last question on Russia. Sorry.
And those protests are about Fauci ouchie.
Commented, and I quote, they're trying, they being the West, the US, the NATO, trying to calm us down with assurances that NATO is a peaceful and defensive organization, but then he cited Iraq, Libya, Belgrade as counter examples. What do you
Do you spell that with an O? Yeah.
Oh, spell what? Biatch. I think so. Right? Like it's biatch. Biatch. Or some people like biatch.
I just want to
like
say that.
NATO has always been a defensive alliance. It is Russia that is. Let me finish my answer. It is Russia that is building up tens of thousands of troops at the border, not NATO. We are working to plus up support for our partners. They have the ability to de-escalate, and we certainly hope they do that. Go ahead.
This afternoon, the White House issued a statement criticizing Florida legislation that would restrict classroom discussion of sexual orientation or gender identity. It's relatively rare for the White House to weigh in on state-level legislation, to weigh in on this particular bill, and why this issue rose to the level that the White House wanted to put something out there.
Well, for those of you who weren't following this, maybe all of you were, but let me first say that every parent, as one myself too, hopes that our leaders will ensure their children's safety, protection, and freedom. And today, conservative politicians in Florida rejected those basic values by advancing legislation that is designed to target and attack the kids who need support the most. Kids from TQI plus community who are already vulnerable to bullying, and we've seen that in study after study, and violence just for being themselves, and just
as per usual.
Right. More narrative. Yay, narrative.
For being who they are, can or cannot read, what they can or cannot learn, and most troubling, who they can or cannot be. This is who these kids are, and these legislators are trying to make it harder for them to be who they are. So we felt it was important to speak out against this action.
If you're, we can just go down the list of things that they should be teaching, right?
What's the White House reaction to the Supreme Court late yesterday restoring an Alabama voting map that a lower court ruled was discriminatory?
Yeah, this is a very important story. So I would say that we
it's a very important
need to
story.
make sure, as you've heard the president say, that our sacred voting rights are fully protected. We should be moving forward, not backward. That is always the view of the president, the vice president, and this White House. That means ensuring fair election maps that protect the rights of black voters to have an equitable and meaningful opportunity to elect candidates of their choice, as the Voting Rights Act and Supreme Court precedent have guaranteed for decades. It is deeply disturbing to us that the Supreme Court gave Alabama a free pass to use a map that in 2022 that 3 federal judges found to discriminate against black voters. This is exactly what the Voting Rights Act is in place to prevent, and one of the reasons it's so important to pass a reauthorization into law without.
Why is it every single time that they bring up stuff like this, they don't remember that the last time that something major happened, when it came to like voting rights or whatever, kind of did fall on the Democrat side. They're always trying to push more voting rights or whatever. We need more rights to vote. We need more rights to vote. Simply make it everybody across the board can't vote unless they actually have an ID that shows like they can actually vote. I mean, if you want to attach it to something else, go ahead, do that. If that's what makes you feel good about yourself, good. But, it should be general, across everywhere, that it should be on the back of your ID. You show your ID, look, they see that you're registered, they finish your registration, hand you a piece of paper and say thank you for voting. Nobody has any right to tell you who to or when to and how to vote for anyone, and you don't get to do it multiple times. And I'm not sitting there saying that anybody actually did, but, that's how it's supposed to work. One
If you
vote.
want to hear somebody saying that, you can head over to my channel sometime. Check
And they did this without the Supreme Court finding any reason to doubt that conclusion.
You
That is
can.
concerning to us,
You can
and
go
certainly
over there. You can
protecting
check
people's
them
rights,
out.
not taking steps
He'll
backwards.
tell you how he
The administration, as you know, through the Justice Department, took legal action against Texas. They challenged those maps, perceived as being discriminatory. Given that the voting rights legislation has been put on pause for a number of reasons, has the White House considered any sort of unilateral or preemptive actions against states that might try to take similar steps as Texas and Alabama did?
A question I would point to the Department of Justice is, as you know, but for others, we're not a party to this lawsuit, but I would point to the Department of Justice.
Quit pointing people places. Tell us something.
I can't tell you anything. I'm just going to point you to who actually might have a chance of potentially helping you. But I can't tell you for sure if they're going to say anything because they haven't told me. Because I didn't ask.
Go ahead.
Hi, thanks. A couple on Dr. Lander. I want to be precise first, I guess, on his resignation. Because you said it became clear to him yesterday. Did the president or anybody else in the White House encourage him to resign, or was this 100% totally voluntary?
This is a decision made by Dr. Lander.
And then what does it say to the staff, I guess, in the administration that Dr. Lander's mind? What does that say to the staff?
Dr. Lander's behavior was not acceptable at all. And the president did not view it as acceptable either. There was a full process that was undergone. That was an implementation of the policies put in place last spring, the safe and respectful workplace policy. That included a thorough investigation. It included a meeting of Dr. Lander with individual senior officials from the White House.
And
about the president's
freaking
policy.
again.
Question. We want to create an environment here that's safe and people feel comfortable, and they also know the channel where they can express concerns as they have them. But this is an HR process and an internal process because of that, and we typically keep those processes private to respect the individuals, the privacy of the individuals who come forward. If individuals come forward, and that's how we would proceed moving forward.
You can't say yes or no whether there are
If this was a
other
question,
investigations similar to this.
Again, those are private.
Conservative people were asking, she'd just be like, I already answered that, so shut up. But because it's some bullshit stupidity like this that just takes up time and space so that, oh yes, we answered questions for an hour today. It was beautiful, right? Because of these pre-planned bullshit questions, right? So this is okay.
Wait
but
until
if
she
someone
storms off
asked
the
her hard
stage.
questions about Afghanistan like last year, if you noticed that, she'd always be like, "Oh, I already answered that. I already answered that. I already answered
Processes
that
and HR
one."
processes, and if individuals choose to speak publicly, that of course is their prerogative, but as is true of any HR process in any company, we would certainly keep that process
Totally not
private as a
bullshit.
policy.
Any reevaluation of the workplace policies and rules here given?
Well, respectful workplace policy, which was implemented in this case, provides a channel for any individual to come forward if they have concerns, where the concerns can be addressed through a thorough process. And hopefully people know that, and it is part of an effort to maintain a healthy work environment. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks, Tim. Immigration reform seems like a non-starter in the current Congress, but today freshman Republican Congresswoman Margarita Salazar presented an immigration reform bill that would legalize millions of undocumented. And she's calling it a starting point. She's
After
got
watching
Republican
her for an hour, I want to drink
will the
some
president
gin.
agree to invite her to the White House to listen to her ideas and incorporate them somehow?
Well, the president proposed
lots
an
of
immigration
it.
bill on his first day in office, and certainly he's eager to work with anybody who wants to put in place immigration reform policies that would create a safer system, a more effective system, a more humane system at the border. I'm not familiar with all the specific details, but certainly we out their policies. Let me just do one last one here. Go ahead.
Yep.
I wanted
Human
to ask you for an
trafficking.
update on how many COVID-19
Like child
received
sex
from the president.
trafficking.
COVID briefing, I think tomorrow or
Slavery
Thursday. Let
trafficking,
me
you
check
know,
with them and see. I don't
that
have the
kind
numbers
of
in front of
thing.
me, but I can see if they're in a position to provide an update on that.
Oh wait, we're not
Thanks,
going to
everyone.
talk.
Okay, everyone. I'm sorry. I think we got to wrap up, but more tomorrow. Let's do this again. I'm often answering questions on Africa. I'm happy to do some more tomorrow. I'll look forward to talking to all of you tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, run, bitch.
Like I said, wait until she goes and she storms off the stage because basically she's like, okay, I'm so sick of answering these questions for this last 45 minutes because dang well that she had a little thing that she said in the first 15, that she was fine with saying, but once she gets asked questions, she totally turns into this little witch that doesn't like to listen.
Oh yeah.
She's just
Like you can see the tall hat appear on her and her nose like grow a wart. I mean, like she just turns into a complete witch. Starts to like levitate and like her broom just like starts flying around the background. So she's a complete witch after that point.
Okay, so let me check this.
She does remind you of a witch, though, right? Like a cartoon witch, right? You know, like if her nose could like have a little tiny wart, you know, she could wear like a big hat, like, you know, like I mean, she looked exactly like it.
We found a witch. May we burn her?
Commander Jimmy. Is everything going okay, bud?
Yes, absolutely, sir.
What did I do?
Nothing.
Just absolutely
nothing at all.
Nothing. Son of a bitch. What am I doing? Sharing.
What are we sharing? Specifically? Be specific, Mom.
Well.
Why are you unhappy?
I don't know what I just did. At least I didn't spaz like I did last time.
Oh, comrade. Comrade.
I fix, make it better.
It is beautiful. Beautiful, if I do say so.
So, okay, so I wanted to go to this. No, where is it?
I took that bitch into MS Paint, bro.
Okay. So, a little break in between the two main segments.
Yeah, why don't you put me on full
just...
screen real quick while we're on break here?
Put you on full screen while we're on break.
Yeah, show off
this
my
isn't
little graphic.
that kind of break.
It's gonna play the Soviet Union national anthem.
This is the record Eagle out of Traverse City, Michigan. And as you can see, this is dated a little while ago. This is on the 4th of February. But I didn't see this anywhere before this had occurred. And so I'm like, oh, that's some interesting stuff. So they say Democrats on Friday muscled legislation through the House.
Muscled.
That they can say positions the United States to better compete with China economically and on a global stage by strengthening the domestic semiconductor industry and shoring up strained supply chains. The bill passed by a vote of 222 to 210. It marks an important step for the top Biden administration priority, but the legislation is likely to be extensively revised as negotiators reconcile differences with that the Senate passed about 8 months ago. President Joe Biden urged lawmakers to reach a deal quickly, saying America can't afford to wait. Nearly 3,000-page bill, not counting 3,000 pages, huh? There's an awful lot of words in those 3,000 pages, you'd think.
Easy to sneak
Includes
something by.
enforcement designed to boost semiconductor manufacturing in the U.S. The big ticket items included about $52 billion in grants and subsidies to help the semiconductor industry, and $45 billion to strengthen supply chains and high-tech products. I did so much reading today.
You read the whole bill?
No, I did not. No, I did not read this whole bill. There was so much other stuff that I don't know. I don't know if you guys are going to stick around with me that very long. It's 3 o'clock in the morning.
Holy fuck. I didn't even realize.
We 2 hours in.
We got 2 hours in, and I still had a whole other segment that I was going to do.
Well, that could be material for the next show.
The bill includes $8 billion in funds that helps developing countries adjust to climate. $3 billion for facilities to make the U.S. less reliant on Chinese solar components. $4 billion to help communities with significantly higher unemployment than the national average, and $10.5 billion in states to stockpile drugs and medical equipment. Democrats were in a celebratory mood prior to the vote after the latest jobs report showed employers added 467,000 jobs in January. They said that the legislation would lead to more good news on that front. They didn't add 467,000 jobs. This is 467,000 more people actually went back to work as opposed to sitting at home waiting for unemployment that wasn't going to happen. The bill we're talking about today is a jobs bill for manufacturing in America, for making in America, Pelosi says.
See, like when it says there's like, oh, there's $4 billion to help this or to help that, what exactly are they doing? And doesn't it tell you like where the money's going? It just says, oh, we're helping you.
A
Well,
components
by
place
doing
that's
what?
in the middle of the country. Where are they building this facility that's going to build these computer chips? Because
like what company? Where are they building? What are they doing? What's going on here?
So the bill is actually just a long list of progressive dream policies that have nothing to do with China at all, says the Republican from Minnesota, Michelle Fishberg. So when you actually get through there and you start reading some of this or whatever, it's like, wait a minute here. We just cannot wait anymore. We're so far behind. We're in such a dangerous place as a matter of national security just because our reliance on Taiwan for our most sophisticated leading edge chips.
Maybe you should have thought of that before you let things destabilize and, potentially Taiwan get invaded.
Again.
You mean the island of China?
Oh, yes. Excuse me, John Cena. Excuse me.
One of the biggest flashpoints is the $8 billion in legislation to help developing countries reduce their emissions and cope with the climate change.
AKA
Former
shut them down
President
forever so they don't
Barack
develop.
Obama pledged $3 billion towards that fund, but former President Trump withheld $2 billion of that.
He sold coal to other developing countries. So
why do you keep on feeding these countries? You can't even feed ourselves. We quit giving all these other countries money.
Legit, they have no right to our tax dollars.
That's ours.
You want to sell a product?
Come back to us to help us, continue.
You want a company to sell a product? They can do
as worthy Americans. Meanwhile, America's share of semiconductor manufacturing globally was steadily eroded from 37% in 1990 to about 12% now. The Biden administration and lawmakers are trying to reverse the trend, which industry officials say is driven by foreign competitors receiving significant governmental subsidies. The pandemic was stained in the supply chain for the chips. The Commerce Department issued a report last week that found a median inventory of some semiconductor products had fallen from 40 days in 2019 to less than 5 days in 2021. The report also said stakeholders don't see a problem going away in the next 6 months. The administration cited the findings in calling for Congress to act.
Notice they said stakeholders.
What about our people?
Stakeholders. Yes. We're supposed to protect our people, Bob.
Stakeholders don't see a problem going away in the next 6 months. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, I know I'm kind of skimming through this a little bit. Like I said, it's getting late. I didn't think how late it is. Whatever emerges, we'll need support on 10 Republicans in the 50-50 Senate to be passed into law. will send House Republicans a much better option to vote on the next couple of months, said Senator Ted Young of Indiana, who worked with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer on the Senate's version of the legislation. Democrats in the Senate and the House know we have much more work to do to bridge our two proposals together and move the bill to the president's desk, and I believe we will, Schumer said. So you really think so, huh? We're going to move it forward? Is that what's going to happen? Because of the 50-50 Senate vote that you think is going to fall into your favor because of who the tiebreaker is? Whatever you want, Chucky.
Chucky.
Chucky Schumer. Whatever you want. So, I mean, it's an interesting little article. So, what I think we're going to actually do here, because we didn't realize how far we were going into this, and I still had 2 more things set up. I think we'll do this as part 1, and we'll come back tomorrow and we'll do part 2.
Oh, a two-parter.
Part 2.
That could be interesting. We won't. I mean,
Round 2. Fight.
Yeah, let's do that. We're at 2 hours and 15 minutes. I really didn't think it was going to take us that long to get through that. We've gone through that a little bit quicker before, which isn't a bad thing. It's just very interesting how it worked itself out. So this is part 1. Part 2 will be set up, and I don't have to do anything tomorrow. Oh, I work tomorrow. This part 2 is on hold until Thursday. And some time to actually, let that first part sink in for when we do part 2. Too bad part 2 is going to be a little late, for what it is, because this is all news from today. It was a fairly busy day. I mean, I know that news article was from the 4th, but,
a lot going on in the world.
U.S., semiconductor computer chip, production plants that they want to try producing and putting around. I mean, it could be interesting. Let's just call it right here. And you want to say anything to end the day? Otherwise, I'm just going to say part 2 is coming Thursday. Later.
Babushka, Kalishnikov, Soviet Russia, we own you now.
America Shirts are first.com. 15% off using Koolfrogg on your base t-shirts, people.
You can follow me at the Atlas Pass
Thursday.
on TikTok.
Hopefully we hit it midnight. We'll aim for it. We'll see what we can do for all of you. Thank you. Have a good night.